If you get any closer, I will kill you, the woman roared, hiding her son behind her. Her hand squeezed the dull knife as she tried to control her shaking. Do you know who you are talking to? The knight took another step closer. You are under arrest for stealing. You better surrender or you will just make your situation worse. Do not come any closer, as she screamed again. She waved her knife around. She looked at the second knight who reached for his sword. He looked impatient. She had hoped that she and her son would make it to the river before the knights caught up to them, but her injury made her too slow. She pushed little Geoffrey behind her and prayed that he would not see any blood, but she had no time to dwell on the thought. The knight charged at her and swung his sword. She dodged and planted her knife in the side of his left thigh, then twisted it. He cried in agony and fell to his knees. The woman then picked up his sword and turned to the first knight. He seemed too shocked to even move. You bitch. He finally came to his senses and unsheathed his sword. She could take him, especially with the sword. She did not have to kill him, just an injury that would prevent him from following them. She put her hand on her side and winced at the pain. I must make it. The woman took a step toward the man, ready to attack. But her hand halted mid-air when she heard horses coming their direction. More knights appeared, led by a noble. 7 in total. Damn it. She could not win against them all. Compared to these knights, the other 2 looked like puppies. Your Grace. The first knight kneeled. What is going on here? The Duke looked at the man on the ground and then at the woman holding the sword. Your Grace, this woman is accused of stealing, but she is not surrendering. She was trying to escape. Did she do this? He pointed at the man still kneeling on the ground. Yes, Your Grace. The Duke studied the woman. She looked straight back at him, her grey eyes wild and fiery. She was about 5'6", and very slim. How can a woman this small injure one of my men? I think you are outnumbered, my lady. Should you not give up already? The Duke dismounted his black horse and took a few steps closer to the woman. She stared at him for a moment. She could barely stand anymore. I did not steal anything, my lord. She lowered her sword. Then why were you running? Because I was being chased. She felt her consciousness slipping. I surrender, but please promise me. She swallowed hard, and the sword slipped through her fingers. She squeezed her eyes shut, hoping to get a grip. When she opened them, though, the whole world was spinning around her. She lost balance and fell, but the Duke caught her before she hit the ground. Mamar, Geoffrey called, frightened. Please, do not harm my son, the woman whispered before she fainted. The Duke noticed her bloody dress and found a deep knife wound. He was amazed. Half of his new recruits would not have been able to walk with such injury, let alone fight. In a swift move, he picked up the woman. Victor, he called. Yes, Your Grace. Take care of the boy. Bring him to the castle. I'm going first. Yes, Your Grace. Victor bowed. The Duke rode his fast horse with the woman in his arms. He could not explain why, but she had piqued his curiosity. They arrived at the castle in no time. Jasper, call for the doctor. The Duke took fast steps, carrying the wounded stranger in his arms. Right away, Your Grace. When the doctor arrived, he checked her injury and healed it right away. He was then escorted to the Duke's office. Your Grace, you have saved that woman's life. She would not have lasted much longer, he reported. Is she fine now? Yes, Your Grace. I have healed her wound. She just needs to rest. As you know, magic takes a toll on people who cannot use it, so she will probably need a few days to regain her consciousness. Thank you, Doctor. I will take my leave then, Your Grace. The doctor bowed and left the office. The Duke leaned back in his chair, pensive. I have a feeling something might come out of this unexpected encounter. He did not linger long on the thought, because he was interrupted by a knock. Victor opened the door and walked in while pulling the little boy from earlier. Pardon me, Your Grace. I brought the boy. Yes, come in, boy. Geoffrey walked frigidly toward the Duke's desk. How is the injured recruit? He asked his commander. He is being healed by the doctor as we speak, my lord. I think there needs to be more training for the new recruits, seeing that 2 of them failed to arrest an injured woman. The knight kneeled with shame. My apologies, my lord. I will personally train the new recruits and make sure no such incident happens again. Good. You can leave now. His voice was cold. Yes, Your Grace. The Duke's eyes travelled back to the small boy. He had his mother's grey eyes, but unlike her brown hair, his was golden blonde. You can sit, boy. Little Geoffrey looked at the chair, hesitating for a moment, then he climbed up and sat down. Are you going to kill me? The boy asked innocently. His question startled the Duke. Am I that scary looking? He raised an eyebrow. Yes, Geoffrey answered with a whisper. The Duke stared at him for a moment before he burst into laughter. You are quite honest, he said between laughs. But a boy your age should not even speak of killing, he added. It is because I remembered what those men said to Mamma earlier. The knights? The Duke frowned. No, the men from the market. He was a bit confused. The men from the market? The ones who accused his mother of stealing from them? Can you tell me what happened? Geoffrey hesitated for a second. I want to see Mamma. Is she all right? The Duke noticed the tears forming in the boy's eyes. He must have been scared, seeing his mother collapse and then being taken by strangers. Your mother is fine. She just needs to sleep for a bit. I will take you to her after we are done talking. All right. All right. Then, would you tell me what happened with the men in the market? They were so scary. They told Mamma to give them her money, but Mamma said no. Then, they hurt her, he paused. They said they would kill us, but Mamma hit 2 of them and then we ran to the forest. The knights followed us, and they tried to hurt Mamma too. She did her best to defend me, he paused again. And then you came. The Duke eyed the boy for a moment. What is your name? Geoffrey Croy. What is your name? He smiled. Daniel Van Conigal. Nice to meet you, Mr. Van Conigal. Geoffrey jumped off the chair and bowed to the Duke. Daniel's smile widened. Nice to meet you too, Mr. Croy. He bowed his head slightly to the boy. Now, how about I take you to see your mother? Yes. He beamed. The boy took fast steps behind the Duke, but he struggled to keep pace with him. Mr. Van Conigal, he called after a few stumbles. Daniel halted and looked back at the boy. Could you please walk a little slower? I tried to match your speed, but your legs are way longer than mine, he said with a frown. Mamma always walks slowly and holds my hand so that I don't get lost. Daniel chuckled. I have a better idea. He picked him up. Yay! I am as tall as Mr. Van Conigal, Geoffrey rejoiced. As the Duke walked the hallways, He noticed the surprise on every servant he passed. I guess the cold-hearted Duke carrying a child in his arms is not a fitting image. They finally reached the room, and Daniel put Jeffrey down to run to his mother. He stood by the bed and held her hand. "Mamar, I am sorry I couldn't protect you," he said as he leaned down and put his forehead on his mother's hand. "I want to grow up fast to be strong." He kissed her hand. The boy's words struck something in Daniel. He remembered saying similar words as he cried over his parents' lifeless bodies. He took a few steps away from the boy to take a deep breath. "So, what is your mother's name?" he asked, trying to bury the pain that came with the memories. "Her name is Mamar, obviously," Jeffrey answered, looking at Daniel peculiarly. He smiled. "Yes, that is what you call her, but what do other people call her?" Jeffrey stared at him for a moment as if debating whether to tell him or not. "Magnolia," he finally uttered. "Magnolia," Daniel repeated. Magnolia opened her eyes to a dark room. As she came to her senses, she sat up quickly. "Where the bloody hell am I?" The incidents from before caught up to her quickly. "Jeffrey," she whispered. She put her hand on her left side, and when she did not feel any pain, she pulled up her nightgown. The wound was completely healed. Not even a scar was left. What in the world? She left the bed and walked to the door, but when she tried to open it, it was locked. Her heartbeat rose. If she was confined here, Jeffrey was probably locked somewhere, or worse. "I have to find him." She hurried to the windows and opened one of them. She found herself looking down from the third floor at a flower garden. It was high, but the edges of the windows were wide enough to walk on. She noticed a veranda on the second floor, just a few windows away. Without wasting time, Magnolia slipped out and cautiously walked on the narrow stone edge. "I can do this. I can do it," she kept repeating to herself. She reached the window above the veranda and slowly pushed against the wall. She slid down to a sitting position. Then, she gripped the bottom of the window and lowered herself carefully. She finally jumped. When she landed, her body was trembling from the excitement. Magnolia slowly walked to the glass doors, but as soon as she touched the handle, they flew wide open. She found herself in front of a surprised man, the noble from the forest. "How did you get here?" The Duke was not expecting the encounter. She was supposed to be unconscious for days. Magnolia grabbed his collar and pushed him back into his office until he was slammed against his desk. "Where is my son?" He looked into her angry eyes, the same eyes he had seen in the forest. "Sleeping." Magnolia's grip loosened a bit. Unlike his mother, he is a very gentle child. "I want to see him." She ignored his comment. "Maybe if you let go, I can show you to his room." Magnolia was reluctant, but she released him. "Also, I would appreciate it if you did not roam the hallways of my castle, half naked." Daniel took off his light coat and handed it to her. Magnolia looked down at her see-through nightgown and instantly blushed. She put on the black coat and followed him as he guided her to Jeffrey. The hallways were dark, except for the lantern the Duke was holding. But she was not scared. Dark hallways had allowed her to hide many times when she was younger. Magnolia found her son sound asleep in a room similar to hers. She caressed his hair and planted a gentle kiss on his forehead. "Can we have a civilized conversation now, Lady Magnolia? How do you know my name?" Her eyes were wide. "Jeffrey and I have become quite acquainted." Magnolia could not help but feel uneasy. She kissed Jeffrey one more time before she left the room with the Duke. They silently walked back to his office. He motioned for her to sit as he took a seat himself on the other side of his desk. Let me introduce myself, my lady. My name is Daniel Van Conigal, Duke of Silicera. Magnolia's eyes widened at his name. She stood up and bowed immediately. Magnolia de Solange, at your service, your grace. Even I have heard that name before. Everyone in the kingdom has. Please, I think it is a bit late to be formal. Wouldn't you agree? Magnolia blushed as she unconsciously pulled his coat tighter around herself. Daniel hid his grin. Have a seat, my lady. Magnolia obeyed. I'm curious though, why de Solange and not Croy? She clenched her fists. Baron Croy was my late husband. I use my family name now. Her words were clipped and full of distaste. A widow, then. Daniel eyed her for a moment. May I ask how your husband passed away? He died in a riding accident. And where are you from, Lady de Solange? Is this an interrogation? Magnolia sighed. Carricker, your grace. She held his blue gaze for a while before asking. May I ask you a question as well, my lord? Of course. How did I get here? You fainted from the pain in the forest, and I brought you to the castle. I had a doctor heal your wound, using magic. He said that I have saved your life and that you wouldn't have lasted much longer. Daniel boasted. Although, that old fart said that it would take her days to wake up. I should probably hire a younger doctor soon. Magnolia was not sure how to feel about the situation. Saved by none other than the ice sword of the kingdom. I am most grateful, your grace. She bowed. However, I wouldn't want to take advantage of your kindness. My son and I will be leaving the first thing in the morning. Daniel studied her expression for a moment. There is a matter that needs to be taken care of first, my lady. We are still dealing with the men from the market, the ones who have accused you of stealing. But I have not stolen anything, and Magnolia stood up angrily. Your grace, she added with a smaller voice. I am aware. We just need to catch those men. After that, you are free to go. He is aware? Magnolia was lost for words. How did you? Please, Lady de Solange, we can discuss the details in the morning. Let us call it a night. The Duke looked exhausted. He was exhausted. Of course, your grace. Let me guide you back to your room. He walked around his desk and offered her his arm. As long as you promise me not to lock me in there. Daniel smiled, which took Magnolia by surprise. He had a dazzling smile. I promise, my lady. After the Duke took her to the room, she lay in bed for a while, thinking about all that had happened. She could not help but feel grateful that both she and Geoffrey had a warm and comfortable bed to sleep in tonight. She fell asleep with a smile on her face. In the morning, Magnolia was awoken by servants opening the curtains and bringing in clothes. Good morning, Lady de Solange, one of the servants greeted her. My name is Clara. I will be your lady's maid during your stay, my lady. Please, call me Magnolia. As you wish, Lady Magnolia. The maid bowed. His Grace has requested you to have breakfast with him, and we are here to help you get ready, my lady. Clara motioned to the bathroom. I do not require help taking a bath, but I do need help putting on that thing. She pointed to the blue dress the maid was holding. It looks like a difficult task for me. Magnolia said with a smile. Of course, my lady. After taking a bath, Clara helped Magnolia put on the sapphire dress they had brought for her. Then, she guided her to the dining hall, where she found the Duke and Geoffrey sitting at the table. "Mamar," her son screamed when he saw her. He immediately ran to her. "Geoffrey, I have missed you." She hugged and kissed him. "Me too, Mamar. Do you feel better?" "Yes, I am fine, darling." Magnolia straightened up and then bowed to the Duke. "Good morning, Your Grace." "Good morning. Please have a seat. Geoffrey and I are starved." "Yes, Mamar. We were waiting for you." "Oh, I apologize for my tardiness." Magnolia hurried and sat opposite of the Duke, with Geoffrey right next to her. They were served an extravagant breakfast. She looked over to her son. He had never had this many choices for a meal, yet he still ate with the good manners she had been teaching him. She smiled at him proudly. Then, she looked over to the Duke. He was enjoying his cup of tea while reading the paper. Now that she studied his features, he was quite handsome. The sun rays that dared reach his silver, conical family trait made it look even brighter. His dark blue eyes, even though cold, were beautiful. As for the smile she had a glimpse of the night before, it would enchant any lady who saw it. Magnolia looked back down at her delicious breakfast. She took a bite of her freshly baked bread with butter and closed her eyes in bliss. This is what a normal life would be like, or at least a more extravagant version of a normal life. She smiled to herself at the silly thought. Then, she remembered the reality of her life. There was nothing normal about it. Her smile disappeared immediately. When she looked up again, she met the Duke's gaze. Startled, she felt her cheeks burn crimson. Daniel, who had been staring at her for the last few minutes, was intrigued by the fast changes of her facial expressions. He wondered what she was thinking about. "I hope breakfast is to your liking, my lady." "Of course, Your Grace." She averted her eyes. "It is delicious, Mr. Van Conigal," Geoffrey declared with his lips red from the strawberries. Magnolia's eyes widened. "Geoffrey, is she called at once?" "That is not the appropriate way to call a duke," she said with a firm voice, which surprised the boy and Daniel equally. "It is truly fine. He is just a child." Daniel attempted to make light of it. "How is a child supposed to learn if we do not teach him, my lord?" Magnolia dismissed Daniel's comment. "Now, Geoffrey, you need to call the Duke, Your Grace, or you can say, my lord, understood?" "Yes, Mamar," Geoffrey answered, a little dejected. "I'm sorry, Mamar." "It is all right, dear." Magnolia finally smiled at her son. "You are still a little boy, and you still have so much to learn about the world." She wiped his lips with her serviette. "And I am so proud of you." "Mamar, I'm proud of you too." His sweet words surprised her, but it only took a second for an even bigger smile to tug on her lips. The scene moved something in Daniel. His chest felt warm. He had never wanted to have a family of his own. He had no time nor desire. He had also made a promise to himself a long time ago the day he lost his family. He pledged to never love anyone as much as he loved them. He could not bear losing a dear one ever again. Losing his parents had nearly destroyed him. But if he were to have a family, this scene would be closest to what he would have probably wanted. It had already been a few days since the Duke had brought Magnolia and Geoffrey to his house. Their stay had been the most comfortable and luxurious. They had warm beds, good meals, clothes. They even had servants helping with everything. Magnolia could not have asked for more. "But I cannot get used to this. Soon, we will go back to our old life." She took a sip of the tea Clara had made for her. She closed her eyes as the flavors exploded in her mouth, then smiled. I guess we can just enjoy the Duchess hospitality until we have to leave. Magnolia looked over to her son who was playing with Lady Green. She was an older woman, in her late 50s. The Duke had summoned her to take care of Geoffrey while they were his guests. She was so gentle and patient with him that Magnolia felt quite comfortable leaving her son with her. A feeling that she had never had before. Ever since she gave birth to Geoffrey, she could not even leave him with his own father. Especially with his father. Magnolia pressed her lips together at the thought of the Baron. Lady de Solange. Magnolia jumped at the sound of her name. Apologies, my lady. I didn't mean to startle you. Henry bowed. No need to apologize, Lord Flock. Magnolia smiled. A few days ago, the Duke had introduced her to his assistant, Lord Henry Flock. When she met him, she thought he had the gentlest face she had seen on a man. His Grace asked that you join him for an outing to town, Henry informed her. An outing? She repeated. Apart from sharing meals together, the Duke had never asked to see her, let alone accompany him to town. Please, allow me to show you to the carriage. Magnolia pushed to her feet. She glanced at Geoffrey, who was too immersed in the game he was playing with Lady Green. Please do. When she reached the carriage, the Duke was already inside. Your Grace, she greeted as she entered. Lady de Solange. Daniel bowed his head slightly. Apologies for the last-minute trip to town, but we have received information about the whereabouts of those men who attacked you. Oh, was all she uttered. She was not even sure that he was still looking into the incident. There is a matter that needs to be taken care of first. She remembered his words from the night they first met. Unfortunately, my 2 recruits only saw one of them. We just need you to identify all of them and we will take care of the rest. You have my gratitude, Your Grace. Magnolia was truly grateful, but her anxiousness was 100 times more intense. If this matter was taken care of, then she would have to leave the Duchess house very soon. Maybe even as soon as tomorrow. He has already done so much for us. I cannot be greedy. She shook her head. Magnolia peeked at the Duke's face and found his eyes closed. He must be tired. Not only did he take care of his duchy, but as the Ice Sword of the Kingdom, he had to give his complete loyalty to the king and obey his orders. Duke Van Conigal had wiped out countless territories that had shown hostility against the throne. Some people even called him the King's dog. But she wondered why he had been so nice to her and Geoffrey. She studied his features a bit more and noticed his long eyelashes, his strong jawline, and his soft lips. I have never seen a man this beautiful. Lady de Solange. Daniel's voice made her jump. If you keep staring at me in that manner, someone might get the wrong idea, he said with his eyes still closed. Magnolia felt her face burn with embarrassment. She cleared her throat, trying to think of something to say, but thankfully the carriage came to a stop. We have arrived, Your Grace. The footman opened the door for them. Daniel finally opened his eyes. He looked at Magnolia's scarlet face and grinned in amusement. He descended the stairs first, then offered his hand to his guest. Thank you, a Magnolia whispered. They walked through a few back alleys, accompanied by 3 knights. This is the tavern where we think they meet. Daniel pointed to an old alehouse. He unfolded a cloak and placed it on her shoulders, covering her head with the hood. The action was a bit intimate. It made her heartbeat quicken and she immediately averted her eyes. When she looked up again, all 4 men were wearing cloaks as well. We will go in, you identify the men, and then we will take it from there, Daniel explained to her again. All right. She nodded. They entered the dimly lit tavern, and a disgusting stench hit their nostrils immediately. Magnolia scrunched her nose. She followed them without looking up. They walked to one of the empty tables. It was an even darker corner of the place. 5 steins, Victor ordered. It only took a minute for a short lad to bring the ale. He could not have been older than 14. Magnolia leaned in to smell the ale, but retreated immediately as her stomach turned. Could you take a look around, my lady? Daniel whispered near her ear. The proximity made her feel even more uncomfortable than before, but she complied. She pushed up her hood a bit and studied the faces of the men in the tavern. It was dark, but she recognized those bastards right away. Over there, she told the Duke. Daniel followed her eyes to the table in the far corner. All 6 of them? Yes, one is missing though, she said as she looked around. I do not see him anywhere. All right. He eyed the men she had identified. How did she even escape from them? Victor, please take Lady de Solange back to the carriage. The commander frowned, but he did not complain. Magnolia was sure he wanted to help capture those criminals instead of walking with her. Yes, Your Grace. He pushed to his feet and Magnolia followed. They made their way to the door and left immediately. Magnolia took in the fresh air and let out a breath she did not even know she was holding. Not that she thought she was in danger while being with the Duke of Salisbury and his knights, but she just did not want the situation to escalate. She was lucky enough that nothing big happened when she encountered those thugs last time. Thank you, Sir Victor. Magnolia's words died as someone yanked her hood back. I thought I recognized the little bitch from the other day. The 7th man who was not with the others flashed a yellow grin at her. Victor already had his sword in hand and pointed at the man. How dare you? The knight stepped between Magnolia and the man. I see you are not alone this time. Not that it matters, the man sneered. He unsheathed his sword as well. My lady, please take cover. As soon as she took a step back from him, a loud crash drew everyone's attention. Magnolia turned just in time to see one of the men flying through the tavern window and slamming to the ground. The man groaned. The doors of the tavern flew open and the men who were inside ran away in panic. Then came the 5 remaining members of the gang. Some were already bleeding and bruised. Finally, the Duke and his 2 knights strode outside. Daniel's eyes fell on Magnolia right away. Why are you still here? His cold eyes traveled to Victor, who stiffened immediately. Apologies, we were interrupted. Victor motioned to the tall, meaty man, pointing his sword at him. Leave. Victor rushed to Magnolia and pulled her away. The man attempted to block their way, but the Duke stepped in front of him in a blink of an eye. You are not going anywhere. Daniel's voice was quite menacing. The man's feet took a step back unconsciously. That was all Magnolia heard before she was ushered into another alley, then another one, until they arrived at the carriage. All finished, the Duke informed Magnolia as he entered the carriage a few minutes later. She could smell blood on him, but she did not dare ask him if he had killed them all. Yes, all finished, as she uttered. Her words were loaded with more than one meaning. Lady de Solange, would you mind joining me in my office? I have an important matter to discuss with you. This is it. After he took care of those crooks yesterday, it is time for us to leave this house. Magnolia swallowed. Not at all, my lord. She gave him a weak smile before she turned to Geoffrey. You be a good boy now and finish your breakfast. I will be right back. Yes, Mumar. Geoffrey smiled as he took a bite of his bread with jam. Magnolia followed the Duke to his office and sat across from him. He stared at her for a moment, which made her very self-conscious. Your Grace, she finally uttered under his gaze. I have a proposition for you, Lady de Solange. He leaned back in his chair and crossed his arms. From what I have gathered so far, you are having a hard time providing a stable life for your son. Magnolia got defensive right away. With all due respect, Your Grace. You have travelled a long way from Carricker, and from the inn you were staying in, it is safe to presume that you are running out of the money your husband left you. Magnolia clenched her fists. Lady de Solange, I would like to adopt your son as my heir. What? Magnolia rose, enraged. Are you mad? She glared at him. Please, calm down. She slammed her hand on his desk. I will not calm down. Was this your plan all along? Even the Duke of Salicerer does not have the authority to take people's children away. I'm taking my son and leaving. She stomped to the door. I will not stop you, Daniel said with a calm tone. But please think about your son's future before making a hasty decision. Magnolia exited his office and slammed the door behind her. She paced back and forth across her room. She still could not believe what the Duke had suggested. How could she part with her beloved son? Was this why he was nice to us? She stopped by the chair and let herself crash on it. She covered her face as a few tears fell. He was right, though. The money I took before leaving Carricker is running out. She bit her lip in frustration until it bled. Magnolia had hoped to make it to the capital Throker before the money ran out. She had hoped to find work there and rent a small room for her and Geoffrey. She had planned to save up money to send him to school when he was of age. Her tears were unstoppable now. Magnolia cried because of her helplessness, her desperation, and her sadness. Because she knew that the life the Duke was offering her son was 1,000,000 times better than what she could have ever given him. She cried until she could not anymore, then she washed her face and walked back to the Duke's office. She did not hesitate to knock. She had already made her decision. Come in. She heard the Duke call. Magnolia entered and bowed. When she looked up, she noticed that Henry was standing next to him. My apologies, Your Grace. I did not know you had company. I can come back later. It's all right, Lady de Solange. As my assistant, Henry is also my confidant, Daniel said. Please, have a seat. He noticed her red eyes and the cut on her lip. He considered asking her, but he did not want to embarrass her. Your Grace, I would like to speak with you in private, she asked while looking at his assistant. I will prepare the papers you asked for, my lord. Please, excuse me. Henry took his leave immediately. Magnolia was silent for a while, and Daniel waited for her patiently. I have made a decision, my lord. She swallowed hard. I accept your offer. I think that is smart, my lady. Magnolia shot him darts. I have a condition, though, she added. Oh? I would like to be able to see my son at least once or twice a year. Daniel stared at her dumbfounded. Well? She asked impatiently. My lady, I think you have misunderstood my proposal. I do not wish to separate a child from his mother. I would like to adopt Geoffrey through marriage. Magnolia's brain did not quite register Daniel's words. Marriage? She repeated in a daze. Daniel was amused as he watched her struggle with the thought. Why? What do you mean? Why? Why do you want to marry a widow and adopt her son when you can marry any woman in this continent? I am sure women throw themselves at you all the time. You are rich, handsome, and a duke. So, why? You think I'm handsome? Daniel asked with a grin. Magnolia blushed. Please, do not tease me and answer my question. He smiled and leaned forward on his desk. I am not looking for a conventional marriage. I need an heir since I am the last member of the Van Conigal family still alive. I am neither interested nor have the desire to have children, or a wife for that matter. Does that answer your question? Magnolia was speechless. Why would a man not want his heir to be of his own blood? She was silent for a moment. I do not understand it fully. Could you please tell me what being your wife entails? You will be the Duchess of Salicerer, my lady, Daniel started. Which means, you will manage this castle and the other estates I own when we visit them. You will attend and host social events. You will accompany me to all official events hosted by the king and, as a Van Conigal, pledge your full loyalty to the royal family. He paused. And most importantly, you will be in charge of the education and well-being of my heir. I see, and Magnolia answered as she absorbed the information. She looked at him as she fidgeted with her dress. So, does that mean she averted her eyes as her ears rang with embarrassment? Daniel sensed hesitation in her voice. Marital duties, I mean to share a bed? She blushed violently. That is correct. We will not be sleeping in the same bed. Daniel put her out of her misery. Relief washed over her face, which he noticed. Then, I accept your offer, my lord. Terrific. Then we will get married in 3 days. I will send word to the temple. Do you have any family you want to attend? I have no family, Your Grace. All right then, I will take care of all the details. Thank you. As Magnolia left the Duke's office, she felt a tiredness take hold of her. She checked on Geoffrey, who was with Lady Green, then she headed to her room for some much-needed rest. Is this my lucky day? The thought resonated in her head as she drifted off to sleep. The next few days passed in a blink of an eye. Everything was prepared so fast. With the Duke's influence and riches, he only needed to give his orders and everything he desired would be presented to him on a silver platter. On the day of the ceremony, Clara knocked and entered Magnolia's room. I apologize, my lady. His Grace asked that you move to the room beside his. Why is that? I am perfectly comfortable here. Well, that is the Duchess' room, my lady. Oh. I guess we still have to appear as a real married couple in front of others. The maid guided Magnolia to her new chambers. A much bigger and more extravagant room. You can leave after you prepare the bath, Clara. I will call for you when I'm ready to get dressed. Yes, my lady. Thank you. Magnolia soaked in the rose petal bath. She washed her body and then her hair. Who would have thought that I would marry again, and a duke of all people? I wish you were here to see this, you crazy bitch. Magnolia gripped the edges of the tub until the wave of emotions passed. After a moment, she put on her undergarments and rang for Clara. It only took her a minute to arrive with a white dress in her hands. My lady, this is the dress His Grace has ordered for the ceremony. Magnolia was surprised by its beauty. The seamstress must have worked for 3 days and nights straight. It is beautiful. Clara smiled, satisfied with Magnolia's reaction. She dressed her, did her hair, and put on her makeup. Then, she adorned her neck with an exquisite sapphire necklace. "This is a gift from His Grace," the maid explained. It belonged to the late Duchess. Magnolia touched it as she stuttered her reflection. It was so flashy, so luxurious. The more she stared at the mirror, the more her face turned crimson. She had never looked this pretty in her life. "Thank you for your help, Clara." "No need to thank me, my lady." Clara bowed. "His Grace is waiting for you downstairs." Yes." Magnolia took a deep shaky breath and put her hand on her chest. "Calm down, heart." As she descended the stairs, Daniel glimpsed a figure from the corner of his eye. When he turned, he was unable to look away. She was breathtaking. Her long brown hair was pulled back, her grey eyes sparkled, and her white dress made her look like a fairy. "My lord." Victor's voice broke his reverie. "The carriage is ready." Daniel reached Magnolia as she took the last step. He grasped her hand and kissed it. The gesture sent a shiver through her body. "You look gorgeous, my lady." "Thank you, my lord." Magnolia was too shy to look up. He guided her to the carriage and helped her in. He sat across from her and could not help but steal glances every now and then. Magnolia felt his eyes on her every time he looked. It made her even more shy than she already was. When the Duke was not looking at her, Magnolia also peeked at him. He was wearing his official clothes with the Van Conigal family colours midnight blue, silver, and black. A large sapphire brooch adorned his mantle that carried the family crest. He looked stunning, especially with his hair combed back. His beautiful piercing eyes were more visible, more mesmerizing. Magnolia looked away and shook her head. "What am I thinking? This is not a real marriage. I cannot be attracted to the Duke." The ride took about an hour. When they arrived, they made their way inside the temple, followed by Victor and Henry. They were to be the witnesses. The high priest was waiting for them, ready to start the ceremony. Magnolia's heartbeat quickened. She never went through the ceremony with the Baron since she was underage, so technically, this was her first wedding ceremony. The temple was extravagant. The white marble reflected everything like a clear, shallow pond. There was gold everywhere, and the chandelier's penduloques looked like they were made from diamonds. Even the velvet seats seemed to be so fluffy that only the feathers of the white swans of the north could have been used. "Please, stand on each side of the fountain and hold each other's left hand over the water," the high priest asked. They both removed their white gloves and Daniel took Magnolia's hand in his. He noticed that she was shaking, so he squeezed her hand a bit to comfort her. She looked up at him and he smiled gently. She returned his smile. The priest poured water on their hands. "May this pure water clear your past and purify your future path, together, as husband and wife. May the gods bless this marriage and watch over you, till death do you part." He held his hands over theirs. "Please, turn your palms up." Then, with a soft white light, he used magic to imprint the Van Conigal crest on both their wrists. As soon as the crests appeared on their skin, they quickly disappeared. Only a high priest could use magic to make them appear again, in case they were needed to prove the marriage. "Duke and Duchess Van Conigal, you are now husband and wife." The Duke bowed and planted a kiss on the inside of his wife's wrist where the crest had just disappeared as it was customary. Then, he thanked the priest and both Daniel and Magnolia bowed to him. "Your Grace, I have already sent a messenger to notify the royal archives of your marriage," the high priest informed the Duke. "Thank you, Your Holiness," Daniel nodded at the old man. "I appreciate the promptitude of organizing the ceremony." "Of course, Your Grace. We are honored that you have chosen our temple for your wedding ceremony." and that I chose your temple for my hefty donations. Daniel thought to himself, "We will take our leave now." He slipped his arm around Magnolia's waist and headed towards the carriage. "May the gods bless your path, your graces." On the way back, Daniel noticed that Magnolia was absent-mindedly touching her left wrist. He wondered what she was thinking about. "My mother's necklace looks great on you." He broke the silence. "You did not have to give me something so precious, Your Grace. Please, call me Daniel from now on. I know it is not an ordinary marriage, but there is no reason not to be friends." Magnolia pondered his suggestion for a moment. "A friend? I have never had one before." She looked at him for a bit longer before she answered. "Then, you call me Magnolia." "Deal, Magnolia." She smiled. "Daniel," she barely whispered as she looked out the window, but he heard her. When their carriage arrived at the castle, all the servants and knights of House Van Conigal were standing outside to greet them. "Why is everyone out here?" "They are congratulating their Duke and Duchess." As soon as they exited the carriage, all the servants bowed and said in sync, "Congratulations, Your Graces." Then, the soldiers slammed their right fists on their chests and yelled, "Long live the Duke and Duchess of Silicera." It was impressive with the large number of men. Magnolia did not know the Duke had this many knights. It was an army, really. "Supper must be ready, so let us eat." "I know you did not even have breakfast," Daniel uttered as he escorted her inside. This was all strange to Magnolia. Nobody had ever cared whether she had eaten or not. And why did the Duke care anyway? This was only a marriage of convenience, so she had no expectations at all. "Mama." Geoffrey ran to her and hugged her. Magnolia picked him up and kissed his cheek. "Have you been a good boy?" "Of course, Mama." She kissed him again. "So, are you now married to His Grace?" Magnolia's eyes travelled to the Duke. "Yes, we are married." Geoffrey turned to Daniel. "Then, are you my pupper now?" Magnolia's face lost all colour. "Geoffrey," she started, but Daniel interrupted. "Would you like that?" He took Geoffrey from Magnolia's arms and carried him. The boy considered the question for a moment. "Yes, I would like that very much." He nodded. "Your Grace," Magnolia tried to apologize, but Daniel stopped her again. "Please, it's Daniel, and I really don't mind if Geoffrey considers me as his father. After all, I am adopting him." "Yay! Pupper." Geoffrey hugged Daniel. He stiffened in surprise, but it did not take him long to loosen up again. "Let us go have some food. I am famished." Daniel led the way to the dining room with Geoffrey in his arms. As Magnolia watched his back, a strange feeling filled her chest. It was so intense it almost hurt. After they ate their meal together, Lady Green took Geoffrey away and Daniel excused himself because he had work to do. Magnolia walked to her new room. She felt exhaustion taking hold of her, as if the fatigue of the last few weeks or even months had hit her all at once. Without even changing her clothes, she just fell asleep. The next morning, Magnolia opened her eyes to Clara's voice. "Good morning, Your Grace. I will prepare a bath right away." "Oh my, is it morning already? I thought I would only take a short nap." She felt a bit embarrassed. She was still wearing her dress, so it was obvious that there was no wedding night. The people working for the Duke would not dare spread rumors, right? She bit her lip nervously. Where is the Duke right now?" Magnolia asked with a low voice. His Grace left early this morning. He travelled south with some knights. I heard that one of the towns was attacked by bandits. Oh, I see, and Magnolia tried her best not to sound too surprised. Thank you, Clara. I will ring for you when I finish the bath. Clara hesitated. Your Grace, are you sure you do not need me to help you with your bath? Yes, I'm sure. But you are the Duchess now. Magnolia smiled. I am still the same person, Clara. I still do not need help with taking a bath. As you wish, Your Grace. As Magnolia soaked in the hot bath, she could not help but feel a bit disappointed. It was only yesterday that the Duke was talking about friendship, and today he just travelled without even telling her. So much for keeping appearances. She buried her face in her hands. I should have at least changed my clothes. And what kind of wife doesn't he even know when her husband is travelling? She groaned before she let her head sink under water. It is strange, being called Duchess. Magnolia had never imagined, even in her wildest dreams, that she could ever become a duchess. She wondered what that horrible woman would think if she learned of her new title. Her jaw tensed at the thought of that monster. Mama? Geoffrey brought her back from her unsettling thoughts. Yes? Did you say something, honey? Magnolia pushed her emotions to the side and smiled at her son. I called you a few times, Mama, he said with a frown. I thought you fell asleep. Magnolia chuckled. I'm sorry, Geoffrey. I was just thinking about something, she reassured him. Did you need something? I was wondering when Pupper is coming home. Magnolia unconsciously looked to the chair where the Duke usually Saturday. Over the past couple of weeks, they have been having every meal together. It felt odd that they were having lunch without him. He has some important work to take care of, she explained. He will come back as soon as he finishes it. All right. Geoffrey's voice was dejected. I hope he will finish it soon. Magnolia nodded, then frowned. Why am I also feeling down? She shook her head. She stuffed a few bites of chicken into her mouth as if to ignore whatever games her mind was playing on her. I am just grateful that Geoffrey and I get to live here. She cut some more vegetables for her son. She knew that she should not expect anything more from the Duke. She had never even thought of remarrying after what she went through with the Baron. She thought she loathed all men. What are the odds that the heartless Duke of Salisbury, who has killed people before just for looking at the king the wrong way, is actually a kind enough person to take in a widow and her son? She knew that this marriage was also convenient for Daniel. But he could have chosen any other woman, and she would have accepted immediately. Salisbury was the only dukedom that had survived the centuries. And even if the Duke chose not to have any children, any woman would still have accepted to be the Duchess of Salisbury, only second in power to the Queen and the Princess. The Van Conigal family was one of the founding families of Melorenia, and Daniel's ancestors were of royal blood pureblood. Suddenly, Magnolia felt a chill run down her spine as she realized how powerful the Duke was. Being the Duchess came with great responsibilities. Oh goodness, how can I be good enough for the task? Why would he choose someone like me? She sighed. Magnolia passed her days in peace. Spending time with Geoffrey, drinking tea in the garden, taking walks. She did not know what to do with herself. She was so used to worrying about money, dangerous roads to the capital, feeding her son, and thieves. Her life had become so peaceful and uneventful. 2 weeks had already passed without a word from Daniel. She was starting to get anxious. She had not heard from the Duke since he left, and nobody was telling her anything about how things were in the south. What if something were to happen to him? What would become of me and Geoffrey? Magnolia took fast steps to the Duke's office, hoping to catch his assistant. Since Daniel left, Henry did not come every day, but sometimes he came to the office. As she lifted her hand to knock, the door flew open. She was so startled, she almost fell to the floor. "Your Grace, I apologize." "Lord Flock, that is all right," as she said, out of breath. "I'm glad I caught you. May I have a moment?" Henry looked a bit puzzled. "Of course, please come in." He motioned for her to enter. "I wanted to ask if there was any news about the Duke." Magnolia was straight to the point. "Yes, Duchess. I'm sorry, I should have shared information with you. Please forgive me." "There is no need to apologize, Lord Flock. As long as you keep me updated from here on." Magnolia sat on the settee. "Of course, Your Grace. The bandits attacked the towns of Flopier and Garrus. We believe they are part of a criminal group called the Phoenix," he explained. "They stole people's goods and killed everyone who tried to resist. His Grace led 50 of our best men, and they have already eradicated the group, except for a few men who have escaped. His Grace should be arriving tomorrow morning." Henry saw relief wash over Magnolia's face, and he immediately felt guilty. She must have been worried this whole time. He bowed. "Again, my apologies for not reporting sooner, Duchess." Magnolia pushed to her feet and smiled at him. "Thank you for your time, Lord Flock. I will let you go back to your work." "I am at your service, my lady." Henry bowed again as he watched her leave. She felt so light as she walked away from the office. She joined Geoffrey in the garden and played with him for hours, running and giggling like a little girl. Later, they ate dinner together, and when she wanted to bid Geoffrey good night, he begged her to read a story to him. Of course, she could not say no to her cute little boy. She tucked him in and lay in bed next to him. Once upon a time, there was a princess who had magical powers. She loved to help people. But one day, her little sister got lost in the forest, so she left the castle to look for her. When she entered the forest, she met a fairy who was trapped under a rock. The princess used her magic to lift the rock and set the fairy free. To thank her, the fairy gave her a magical crystal from fairyland. It had. Magnolia looked over at Geoffrey and found him sound asleep already. She chuckled and kissed his forehead. "Sweet dreams, my darling." She yawned and walked to her room. "I have prepared a bath for you, Your Grace." Her maid bowed. "Thank you, Clara. I really need one right now." She smiled at her and waited for her to leave before she stripped and immersed herself in the hot water. She sighed in bliss. Magnolia stayed there for a long time, soaking away the fatigue of the day and all the worries she had for the last few days. "He is coming back tomorrow. Everything is all right." She sighed again and closed her eyes, allowing her body to fully relax in the water. "I should probably ask him to hire some instructors for me when he comes back. I cannot go around calling myself Duchess without a proper education." She stood up in the tub and reached for the beige towel Clara had left for her. "What are those?" Daniel's intense voice came from the bathroom threshold. Magnolia jumped in surprise and turned toward him. What are you doing here?" she stuttered. She tried to cover her body with the towel and rushed out of the tub, clumsily. Her foot slipped and she found herself in the Duke's arms. "What are all those scars from?" he asked again with a stern face. Daniel's hands were on Magnolia's wet back, and her chest was pressed against his. His face was so close, She could feel his warm breath on hers. Her ears were ringing with embarrassment. "I need you to get out so that I can put some clothes on," Magnolia said through gritted teeth. Daniel helped her stand straight and then turned away to leave the bathroom. Her body was shivering from the whole situation. With shaking hands, she put on her robe and took a few deep breaths to calm down. It was in vain. She walked to the room and found Daniel looking out the window. When he saw her reflection in the glass, he turned to face her. He held her gaze for a moment. Her eyes were frightened, wild, like a cornered animal. Magnolia looked away as she hugged herself. She cursed herself. She had always made sure to cover her body after her baths. Even Clara did not notice her scars. She did not want anyone to see them, especially the Duke. She felt vulnerable and ugly. Daniel sighed. "Are you all right?" His question surprised Magnolia. Is he asking about the scars or about now? Seeing the confusion on her face, he walked to the chairs by the fireplace and sat in one. "Come, Magnolia, have a seat." But her feet did not budge. "I prefer keeping my distance." "Keeping your distance?" Now it was his turn to be confused. "First of all, what are you doing in my room?" Magnolia's words were cold and clipped. "We have both agreed on what kind of marriage this is going to be," she said without even taking the time to breathe. "So, there is no reason for you to be in my room while I'm taking a bath." Daniel's eyes were wide and threatening, but Magnolia did not back down. "I did not think you would be taking a bath this late at night. I wanted to greet you right away since Henry told me you were worried," says the man who left right after the ceremony, without even telling me anything. Daniel stopped. He came to her room that night, but she was sleeping and looked tired. He did not want to wake her. But he could see that she was not going to listen, whatever he said. He shook his head and racked his fingers through his hair. Is he not going to apologize? Also, she resumed. "I would appreciate it if there was no physical contact under any circumstances." Daniel's anger was starting to grow. "I should have let you fall then, my lady," he said with a cold voice. "Yes. I understand." He pushed to his feet and left her room, slamming the door behind him. Magnolia sank to the floor as her knees gave in. She hugged her trembling body and thanked the gods that he did not ask about the scars again. "I thought I felt different about him." She thought that she liked him, or at least did not hate him. But her reaction to his touch was way different than she had imagined. She could not stand it. She was so scared she thought her heart was going to stop. "They broke me," she whispered with a desolate voice, and a few tears raced down her cheeks. Magnolia dragged herself to bed but had a hard time falling asleep with all the painful memories that flooded her head. "I came as soon as I received your message," Henry uttered. "What is going on?" Victor motioned to the training ground. "He has been here since dawn," Victor explained as they both watched Daniel doing his drills. He was drenched in sweat and looked exhausted. The knights are not brave enough to use the field while he is in that state. "I wonder what happened. I thought everything worked out in the south," Henry asked. "It did. In fact, the Duke was quite excited to come back home." "Him? Something must have happened with the Duchess." Henry patted Victor's shoulder. "Thank you for calling for me. I will take care of it." Then, he strode toward the Duke. "You are scaring everyone off," he told Daniel, loud enough to get his attention. "What are you doing here, Henry?" He wiped his sweaty forehead with the back of his arm. "Do you not think that you have trained enough for today?" "I just need to clear my head." "Did something happen with the Duchess?" Henry asked, earning him a glare from the Duke. I was right. If it did, it is none of your business, Daniel snapped. Of course. Henry lifted both palms in surrender. I was just wondering if there was anything that I could help with. There is nothing you can help with, Henry. Wow, he is even more cranky than I thought. Well, if you have finished training, Henry changed the subject. There is a lot of work that has accumulated since you've been gone. I will freshen up and meet you in my office. Yes, Your Grace. Henry headed there first. It only took the Duke about half an hour to join Henry in the office. The assistant had already prepared all the documents that he needed to look at and approve. Daniel sat back in his chair. His mind had not stopped racing since his encounter with Magnolia. The training did not help one bit. Maybe I should have woken her up that night. But she looked so tired. He stared at the paper in front of him, but without reading a single word. What bothered him more was her reaction the night before. His face flushed red as he remembered her naked body and how she felt in his arms. Oh my! Henry noticed his blushing. It might be more serious than I thought. He hid his grin behind the dossier he was holding. What am I thinking about? Daniel cleared his throat. Like Magnolia said, we already know what kind of marriage this is. I was the one to come up with those conditions. He sighed. That promise cannot be broken. The Duke tried to read the paper again, but the image of Magnolia's scars was too vivid to push away. He frowned. There were so many. He wondered how painful they were when they were inflicted on her, and who dared hurt her. Suddenly, Daniel found himself fuming. His lust for killing was fully awake. I would love to rip apart every limb of whoever laid hands on her. His hand trembled. Henry. He looked at his assistant, who stiffened as soon as his eyes met the chilling gaze of the Duke. I need you to take care of something for me. His voice was frosty and threatening. Of course, Your Grace. So, even though I forbid you from leaving your room, you still did? Serena Lazin was not mad. On the contrary, she was ecstatic because she was going to punish Magnolia. She took an excited deep breath. Bring me the whip from the drawer. Magnolia walked to the table and with shaking hands, opened the drawer. She took out the black whip. No, not that one. The one with stones. Magnolia's 12-year-old body shuddered. She grabbed the other whip and brought it to Serena. It had 5 braided leather pieces hanging from it, and each braid had a small stone attached to its end. Magnolia swallowed hard as she handed the whip to her guardian. Uncover your back, she ordered the little girl. She obeyed silently. She unbuttoned her dress and turned her bare back to Serena. Her breathing quickened and she squeezed her eyes shut, waiting for the pain. The loud crack came first before the whip came into contact with her skin. She bit her lip hard, to stop it from letting out any sound. Serena hit again, and again, and again. Tears rushed down Magnolia's face, but she never screamed. She would never give Serena that pleasure. You insolent rat. You should be thankful that I took you in. Without me, you would have died a long time ago. Another hit, then another one. Magnolia had nearly passed out from the pain. Daniel rushed to her bed as she continued screaming. Magnolia! Magnolia, wake up! He shook her a few times before she opened her eyes, dark and desperate eyes full of bitter tears. She pushes him away. Stay away from me, you monster, as she yelled, not really seeing who it was. Magnolia, it's me, Daniel. Her eyes focused on his face. Daniel? Yes, it's all right. It was just a nightmare. He slowly pulled her to him. She did not resist. He took her in his arms, and she clenched his shirt in her fists. It's all right now. It was just a dream, he repeated. I wish it was, she whispered against his chest, but the Duke heard her. He squeezed her closer to him unconsciously. Was it a memory? Magnolia calmed down after a few minutes. Maybe it was because she was too exhausted from her dream, but she did not resist Daniel's embrace. In fact, his soothing strokes on her back were quite out of character from all the rumors about him. But again, everyone thought Serena was a benevolent saint who took in an orphan even when she was not blood-related. Magnolia unconsciously squeezed Daniel's shirt tighter in her fists. Sure, she heard him say as he rocked her gently. She could not help but to close her eyes. Somehow, she felt safer in his arms. Daniel looked down at Magnolia's face and sighed in relief when he realized she had fallen back asleep. He slowly laid her down on her pillow and covered her with the sheet. Then he lay on his arm next to her. He pushed a few locks of hair away from her damp face as he stared at her with gentle eyes. I'm sorry, he whispered. I cannot love you, but I will protect you. He kissed her forehead. He remembered his parents' accident and squeezed his eyes shut. His chest tightened. Even after all those years, he still could not suppress the feelings he got every time he thought about them. I cannot. In the morning, Magnolia tried to move, but something was restricting her. She opened her eyes to a bare chest and heavy arms wrapped around her. What is this? She looked up and found Daniel's sleeping face. His shirt was completely open, and he was keeping her close to him. Oh my, why is he sleeping in my bed? Suddenly, she remembered her nightmare from the night before. She remembered how sweet Daniel had been, trying to comfort her. She closed her eyes and twisted her lips. What kind of situation is this? After my whole speech about how there shouldn't be any physical contact. How embarrassing is it to wake up in the Duke's arms? She tried to break free, but all she got was a groan from Daniel. Good morning, Your Grace. It is a beautiful Clara's voice trailed off when her eyes fell on the Duke's bare torso. She blushed instantly and ran to the door. My apologies, Your Grace, Your Graces. She bowed without looking up again. Please, ring for me when you need me. She ran out of the room as fast as she could. Magnolia just watched with her lips parted. Clara did not even allow her to utter a word. She sighed. Why so noisy? Daniel asked with his eyes still closed. Magnolia pressed her lips together. She was grateful that Daniel came over the night before. He was so sweet, but he should not have stayed all night. Maybe if you had slept in your own room, it wouldn't have been as noisy. Magnolia wiggled around, pushing against Daniel's chest to break free. Please don't move too much. I have a situation, Daniel pleaded. What situation? What are you talking about? Just let me. Magnolia froze as she touched something odd. That situation. Daniel finally opened his eyes and laid them on Magnolia's scarlet face. A smile tugged on his lips at her reaction. It is quite normal for a man to wake up with an erection sometimes, he teased her. Magnolia's face got a darker shade of red, if that was even possible. She was at a loss for words. She wanted to push him away, but she did not want to hurt him. The Duke finally released her. She immediately jumped out of bed. He also stood up and walked toward the door separating their rooms. See you at breakfast, my dear wife. He left Magnolia standing immobile in shock. My dear wife? Magnolia arrived first at the dining room. She took her usual seat as the footman poured her tea. A moment later, the Duke entered, and for some odd reason, Magnolia's eyes automatically travelled to his groin area. Daniel noticed immediately and chuckled. "I am all right now. You don't have to worry," he teased. Her eyes widened and she looked away. "Pupper." Jeffrey ran to Daniel, saving his mother from embarrassing herself any further. "Have you grown since the last time I saw you?" He picked up Jeffrey. "Do you think so, Pipper?" The boy beamed. "Well, yes, I believe you have grown." Daniel nodded. "Did you hear that, Mama? I have grown." "Yes, great job. You have been doing great finishing all your food." She smiled. Daniel placed Jeffrey in his chair, then he took his at the head of the table. As soon as they started eating, Henry showed up at the door. "I apologize, Your Graces," he said. "I am sorry for interrupting your breakfast, my lord, but you have received a letter from the king, and I thought you might want to read it right away." "Thank you, Henry." Daniel opened the letter and scanned it. "Well, the king heard of our marriage. He has invited us to a ball. He wants to meet you." "The king wants to meet me?" "He is a very curious old man, so it is probably killing him that he has not met you yet." Daniel shrugged. "Oh, is that so?" "The ball is in a week, so make the necessary preparations to leave for Throker in 2 days. Henry," he ordered, "and send a reply to His Majesty." "Right away, Your Grace." "Jeffrey, do not play with your food," Magnolia scolded. "But I am full, Mama." "Is that so?" She started. "That's unfortunate. I thought you were happy when His Grace told you that you have grown. But if you don't want to grow any more." Magnolia pretended to be sad. Jeffrey stared at his plate for a moment. Then he finished all his food. Daniel chuckled at Magnolia's impressive manipulation. "Pupper, since I am all grown now, can you teach me how to use a sword?" The Duke pondered his request as Magnolia eyed him. She was nervous for her son, but at the same time, she wanted him to learn how to protect himself. "Only if your mama says yes." Jeffrey turned to his mother with puppy eyes. He knew they worked on her every time. "Mama, please, please, please." "You have to promise me to be careful though, and to listen to everything the Duke says." "Yes, Mama." Jeffrey jumped from his chair and ran to hug her. "Would you like to join us and watch?" Daniel asked her. "I would like that very much, thank you." After breakfast, the three of them walked to the training grounds where knights were already practicing. When they saw them, they all stopped whatever they were doing and formed perfect rows facing them. They all slammed their right fists on their chests and yelled in sync, "Long live the Duke and the Duchess," just like they had greeted them when they got married. Paul, the Duke called one of the lads. He could not have been a day older than 17. "Yes, Your Grace." "Please, escort the Duchess to the benches where she can sit in the shade and watch." "Right away, my lord." Paul showed Magnolia to the benches and stood guard a few feet behind her. She watched as Daniel taught Jeffrey how to hold and swing his wooden sword. Watching them warmed her heart. She secretly thanked the gods for answering her prayers and providing a safe place for Jeffrey to grow up. After they finished, Lady Green took Jeffrey to bathe him, and the Duke and Duchess took a stroll back to the house. Magnolia fidgeted with the hems of her sleeves. "Your Grace," she called. "May I have a word with you, please?" "What is it, Magnolia?" "Actually, She looked down. The thing is, I have never attended a ball before. I am afraid I might embarrass you, or worse, create a problem with other nobles or the king. Her face paled at the thought. You are right, we can't have that. He rubbed his chin, pretending to think. I will have Henry teach you the basics. Do you know how to dance? I know the basic steps, but I am no good. Magnolia looked down again, embarrassed. Don't worry, I don't like dancing anyway. I will call Lady Lovery to come tomorrow. She was my teacher when I was younger. I am sure she can teach you a few things in the short time we have. Thank you. Magnolia finally smiled, feeling a bit more at ease. Knowing a few things is much better than walking into a royal ball knowing nothing. The following couple of days for Magnolia were divided between Henry and Lady Lovery. By the end of every day, she felt her head ready to explode and her muscles too sore to even walk. Every night she fell asleep as soon as her head touched the pillow. But she was grateful for everything they had taught her. They travelled to the capital, Froker, by carriage for a whole day. The uncomfortable journey only came to an end after it was past nightfall. When they reached the Van Conigal house, everyone was so tired they went straight to bed. Good morning, Your Grace, Clara greeted Magnolia in the morning. She was already awake from all the noise outside. She had really gotten used to the quiet of the countryside and the Van Conigal castle. Would you like to take a bath first, Your Grace? The maid asked as she prepared a dress for the Duchess. Or would you like the Duke to take his first? Magnolia looked at Clara, confused. Why are you asking me about the Duke's bath? Well, because this is his room as well, Your Grace. Clara answered in a matter-of-fact tone. Then why am I here? My dear. The Duke walked in. This house is way smaller than our estate in Silicera, so it is a bit cramped. Surely, we can share a room for a few days. Magnolia was too startled to say anything. So how about that bath? Do you want to take it together? Magnolia gasped as Clara bowed and sneaked out of the room silently. How can you speak like that in front of the maid? She looked mortified. Why not? This is my house, and I can do or say whatever I want. He was right, and that was why she didn't say anything more. She just looked away from him. So, do you want to take a bath first? He asked. No, you can go ahead, Your Grace. When are you going to stop calling me that? Well, it's just you and me right now. She shrugged. There is no reason to pretend that we are a loving couple. He cocked his head as he listened to her harsh tone. You are right, it was all he said before disappearing into the bathroom. Magnolia felt a bit disappointed that he agreed with her. She did not mean to sound so harsh, but sometimes words just escaped her mouth before she could think them over. She walked to the window and watched as the servants bustled around outside. The sound of the wardrobe door drew her attention. When she turned, her eyes fell on a half-naked and wet Daniel. He had nothing on but a towel around his waist. She could not look away. She followed a drop of water as it slowly made its way down the muscles of his back all the way down to the towel. She swallowed hard, but finally brought herself to avert her eyes and face the window again. Her face burned and she shook her head, as if it would make Daniel's image that was just imprinted into her mind disappear. After that morning, they barely saw each other. Daniel was busy with work. It was expected since he was in the capital. Almost all of Magnolia's time was spent preparing for the ball. When the Duke was not in the palace taking care of official work for the king, he spent all his time in his office. Daniel only came to their bedroom after Magnolia had fallen asleep, and he usually left early in the morning, before she woke up. He knew that spies were planted in his house. He could not afford to have them report anything negative about their marriage. It is finally here. Magnolia took a deep breath. Clara and 2 other maids entered her room in the morning. They brought her a breakfast tray and started the preparations as soon as she finished eating. It took hours, and by the end of it, Magnolia was so exhausted she was not even sure she could last a whole evening of socializing. However, when she saw a gorgeous brunette staring back at her in the mirror, she forgot all about her tiredness. She could not believe how beautiful she looked. She twirled left and right and touched her curls. The maids smiled at each other, satisfied with the Duchess' reaction. Daniel knocked, then opened the door to the bedroom. He was welcomed by his irresistible wife, so captivating, he did not even notice the maids sneak out. She looked at him, flushed. The silver dress she had on was perfectly fitted and flattered her curves. Her curls, dark brown, fell on her bare shoulder, contrasting her fair skin. There was no doubt she would be the talk of high society for a long time. "Is it time to leave?" Ishi asked. It took him a moment to register her question. Yes." He took a few steps closer to her and opened the box he was holding, revealing a stunning diamond necklace with its matching earrings. "This is a family heirloom. It has been in the family for centuries, and every duchess has owned it and passed it along." Magnolia was speechless. He did not have to give her such priceless family jewels. A slight ache appeared in her chest. "It is probably to avoid any rumors about our hasty marriage." She bowed to him after he put the necklace around her neck. Then she reached for the earrings and wore them. "Thank you, Your Grace." The Duke pressed his lips together. Even though it should not, it bothered him when Magnolia called him Your Grace. He was the one to come up with this marriage deal and its conditions. But sometimes, he wanted more from this woman. It felt like he could not control his attraction to her, as if a greater power was drawing him to her. Daniel shook his head in an attempt to shake the thought. He offered his arm and Magnolia took it. Then, they were off to the long-awaited ball. The Duke and Duchess of Slicera, the guard announced. Daniel and Magnolia made their way into the royal ballroom as all eyes followed them. It was bright and beautiful, but Magnolia did not notice any of it. The Duke felt his wife's hand tremble with nervousness. He squeezed it to reassure her. She felt like her insides were also trembling with anticipation, but she was grateful for Daniel's arm. They walked to the throne and bowed to the king. "Long live the king," they both said at the same time. "You may rise," the king ordered. His eyes traveled up and down as he studied Magnolia. "You can imagine my surprise when I learned that you have gotten married, Duke." He finally looked at Daniel. "I apologize for not telling you in advance, but it was a very small ceremony, my king." "You have chosen a beauty, that's for sure." The king smiled. "Your compliment is most flattering, Your Majesty," a Magnolia uttered, still looking down. "Please, enjoy the ball. I am sure I'll have the chance to converse more with you, Duchess." "That would be an honor, Your Majesty." Magnolia and Daniel bowed to the king one last time before they disappeared into the crowd. "See, that wasn't so bad," a Daniel whispered in Magnolia's ear. "I thought I was going to faint," she whispered back. "I would have caught you." His soft breath tickled her ear, and his words made her heartbeat quicken. "Daniel." Richard." Daniel turned to greet his old friend. "My dear, this is Earl Richard Calwen. It is a pleasure to meet you, Your Grace." He kissed her hand. "The pleasure is mine, my lord." She gave him the formal smile that Lady Lovery had taught her. I am really surprised to see you here. I didn't think you were the type to attend social events, Daniel joked. You know I am not, but there is someone here that I would like to get acquainted with, and who better to introduce me than the Duke of Silicera. Daniel chuckled. But I am not here for business tonight. I am spending time with my lovely wife. He pulled Magnolia closer to him. Surely, even a bachelor like yourself can understand that. Richard threw Magnolia an apologetic look. Maybe if I can borrow your husband for a few minutes, Duchess. It is of the utmost importance, Richard pleaded. It looks like it is. Magnolia smiled. Do not keep him too long though, my lord. I promise. A grin split Richard's face in two. Are you sure? Daniel asked, lowering his voice. Yes, it is too crowded here anyway. I think I will go outside. All right, I will not take long. Magnolia made her way to the nearest glass doors and escaped the noise and heat of the ballroom. A gentle breeze caressed her skin as she walked to the balustrade. She sighed in relief. Why is it so stressful to attend a ball? She stood there for a few minutes, soaking in the night view. That is her. A female voice came from the dark corner of the balcony. Keep it down. She will hear us, a second voice warned. Are they talking about me? Apparently she used her son to pressure his grace to marry her. Magnolia squeezed the rail beneath her fingers. You obviously want me to hear you. That is horrible. An illegitimate son to a bachelor duke without an heir. What do you expect? Poor duke, this woman has no shame. The princess must be furious. They were almost engaged. I'm sorry for making you wait, darling. Daniel's south voice was so close it startled Magnolia. He slipped his arm around her waist and, in a swift move, turned her to face him. He palmed her cheek gently, locking eyes with her sparkling grey pools. Magnolia's breath hitched. The speed of the action and the proximity to the Duke made her feel strange. Her eyes travelled to Daniel's lips. He noticed and grinned. Then, he crushed her lips with his in a passionate kiss, right under the wide eyes of the gossiping ladies. Daniel forced himself to break the kiss. If he had not, he reckoned the ladies who were bullying his wife would have had to witness an even more inappropriate scene. Magnolia's forehead fell on his chest. Please, do not let go, as she murmured. I think my legs will give in if you do. Her revelation drew a smile on Daniel's face, and he tightened his arms around her. Magnolia was out of breath. It was not her first kiss, but she did not understand why the feelings were dramatically different. In the past, when the Baron kissed her, she felt revolted and cringed away from his touch. His kisses were violent and demanding. But why did she enjoy Daniel's? Why did she want him to kiss her more? Why did she want to stay in his arms forever? The thoughts created chaos in her head. They went against everything she had promised herself when she was finally free from the Baron. Why was she letting a man touch her, and worse, she enjoyed it? Can you walk now? Daniel asked with a gentle voice. I believe so, and Magnolia felt shy. He guided her back inside the ballroom, and when they entered, they got no break from socializing. It seemed that all the guests were taking turns to meet them. Magnolia was thankful for the distraction, otherwise she would have driven herself crazy, thinking about that kiss. Her face hurt from smiling and her legs from standing. But thankfully, she could lean on Daniel, whose arm never left her waist. I think it is time for a dance. Don't you agree, love? The endearments still caused a reaction from Magnolia every time he used one. I think it is as well. She smiled sweetly at him. Excuse us, ladies, gentlemen. They finally escaped. Thank you. Magnolia sighed. They will be watching our dancing very closely though. He winked at her. I don't mind. I would rather dance until my feet bleed than spend one more second making pleasantries with strangers. Daniel laughed so loudly that a few heads turned. Very few people had ever seen the Duke of Silicera smile, let alone laugh. Now almost everyone's eyes were on the couple. The Duke led his wife to the dance floor. They bowed to each other and then Daniel took Magnolia in his arms, ready for the music to begin. Nervous? He asked. For some reason, I'm no. She felt very calm in Daniel's arms. When the music started, their bodies moved harmoniously. It felt as if they had danced together thousands of times. Like fairies, flying around a field of flowers, everyone who watched them was enchanted. Even Magnolia and Daniel felt it. As they twirled around the ballroom holding each other's gaze, Daniel's magical powers were heightened, and Magnolia's body temperature was rising continuously. The emotions spreading through their bodies were new to both of them, strange, but soothing at the same time. It felt natural, like this was exactly where they were supposed to be. It was almost as if they were born for this very moment. When the music stopped, the guests applauded as if they had just attended an opera show. The cheers brought back the couple from their fantasy world. They were both out of breath, unable to look away from each other, unable to fathom what had just happened. Daniel finally averted his eyes and bowed his head to some of the guests who were applauding. He leaned closer to Magnolia, who was still a bit disoriented. I think we can leave now. Before she even agreed, he put his arm around her waist and guided her through the crowd, toward the doors. The ride home was silent and awkward. They were both lost in their thoughts. Good night, it was all Daniel uttered before walking away from Magnolia. Later, she pretended to be asleep while waiting for him to sneak into their bedroom like he had been doing every night they had been at the capital. But the Duke never came. The next morning, Magnolia entered an empty dining room. Has the Duke had breakfast already? She asked one of the footmen. Yes, Your Grace. She could not help but feel down. Is he avoiding me? Did I do something at the ball? She pressed her lips together. I should be the one angry with him, after that kiss last night. Her face turned red as soon as she remembered his soft lips on hers. After breakfast, she took a walk with Geoffrey in a nearby park. She only caught a glimpse of Daniel as he was getting into the carriage to leave the house. When her son left for his classes, she went back to her room and found a pile of envelopes on the desk. Dozens of letters, all intended to her. As she started opening them, she realized that they were all invitations to social events from people she had met at the ball the night before. These people don't waste any time. I should probably ask Henry how to respond and which invitations I should accept. As soon as she stood from her chair, somebody knocked and then opened the door. Your Grace, I am sorry to interrupt, but you have received another letter. As Clara handed it to her, Magnolia recognized the royal seal immediately. She opened the letter quickly and read it. So even the princess wants me to have tea with her. Then she remembered what those ladies were saying the night before. Clara, can I ask you a question? Anything, Your Grace. Magnolia hesitated for a moment. Was the Duke close to any women? Not particularly, Clara answered with a nonchalant tone. What about Magnolia lowered her voice. The princess? Clara's eyes widened. She looked puzzled and uncomfortable. She took a few steps closer. Your Grace, there have been rumors that the princess fancied his grace. But those are just rumors, so you do not have to concern yourself. What's more, he has married you, so all that is in the past anyway. Magnolia was not sure whether Clara's speech was out of loyalty to the Duke, or because her face looked too pitiful from learning about the princess. "Thank you, Clara. Can you please send Henry over when you get a chance?" "Of course, Your Grace." Magnolia sighed. Her thoughts were scrambled. If the princess loves the Duke, why would he not marry her? Why would he make a contractual marriage with someone like me? Henry arrived a few minutes later, interrupting her thoughts by his knocking. "Come in." "Your Grace, you have asked for me?" "Yes, Lord Flock. I have received a few invitations and I wanted to make sure I accepted them in the right order." Henry was impressed that Magnolia even knew there was an order to accepting invitations according to titles. "May I have a look, Your Grace?" He took a step closer. "Of course." She motioned to the letters on the desk. Obviously, the first invitation to accept should be the one from Princess Aurora. "Her Highness invited you?" He looked surprised. "Yes, she did. She has invited me to tea." Magnolia eyed him for a moment. If there is anyone who would have the answers to my questions, it would be Henry. But she could not ask him. She could not risk the Duke finding out that she was curious about him or about his love life, to be more accurate. She also knew that Henry was loyal to her husband as his assistant and as his friend. "Could you please show me how to write an appropriate response?" "Of course, my lady." After helping Magnolia, Henry walked back to the Duke's office, where he found Daniel waiting for him. "You are back," Henry said as he closed the door behind him. "Yes, the meeting did not take as long as I expected. Have you finished the documents I left you earlier?" "I'm sorry, I was called by the Duchess to help her with some letters." "What letters?" "Well, after yesterday, everyone wants to meet the Duchess. I helped her answer the invitations." Henry hesitated for a minute. Princess Aurora sent her an invitation too. A shocked look crossed Daniel's face, but it disappeared as fast as it had appeared. "I see. It is only natural that she wants to meet her." Daniel shrugged. "She is the new Duchess of Silicera after all. You do not think she means to harm her Grace?" Henry dug a little deeper. "Why would she?" Daniel seemed a little angry. "Well, as one of the people who saw your dancing last night, I can assure you that the princess is fuming with jealousy." Daniel was silent for a moment. "I do not think the princess is stupid enough to do anything to the Duchess when she is the one who invited her. Plus, I don't know what you mean by our dancing." Henry smiled. "Is that why you have been avoiding her?" "I don't know what you are talking about. I have been busy, that is all. Speaking of which, do you not have work to do too?" Sure. Henry's smile got bigger. "I will take my leave then." "And stop smiling like an idiot," Daniel yelled as Henry closed the door. He leaned back in his chair and covered his face. "Well, I did not expect things to get complicated this fast." Daniel knew that he had been avoiding Magnolia. The feelings he had at the ball were so intense and confusing that he did not know how to deal with them. Staying away from her until he figured everything out was the only way he could think of. But Henry's words have gotten him worried. Aurora was a spoiled child and always got what she wanted. She had been known for getting violent when she did not get her way. He groaned. For the next couple of days, Daniel continued to avoid Magnolia. He buried himself in work and spent his nights in his office. They finally met on the day of the princess tea party. When Daniel opened the door to the carriage and entered, he saw the surprise on Magnolia's face. "I have to go to the palace for a meeting. Going separately would be irrational, he explained. I see, was all she said. Then she looked out the window as the carriage made its way through the streets of Throker. Daniel noticed Magnolia's hand fidgeting unconsciously with her dress. She must be nervous. You are going to be fine. Daniel tried to comfort her. She eyed him for a moment and then looked away again. Thank you, Your Grace, she uttered. Why is he talking to me now after ignoring me for days? I thought I did something wrong at the ball, but now I am just angry. Daniel pressed his lips together. He knew he deserved her coldness, but he could not help being annoyed. Not with Magnolia, but with himself. He had not planned on kissing her on that balcony. When he went to find her after he had parted with Richard, he halted when he heard two ladies saying condescending things about his wife. His body moved on its own. He was planning on hugging her and saying a few loving words to her so that those women would hear him. But suddenly, he found himself kissing her. What was tormenting him even more was that he liked it very much. He could still feel her soft lips against his every time he remembered the kiss. Daniel left the carriage first and helped Magnolia down. When he held her hand, he could feel how cold it was, even through both their gloves. He wanted to say something else to reassure her, but she seemed mad at him, rightfully mad at him. He did not say anything to her. Instead, he called Clara. Yes, Your Grace. Stay with the Duchess at all times, he ordered. Of course, Your Grace. If you finish before me, wait for me so we can leave together, he said as he faced Magnolia. Yes, Your Grace. It irritated him, but he did not comment on the title. Magnolia walked away with Clara on her heels. They were greeted by a maid who guided them to a large room. There were 3 ladies already sitting on the luxurious settees. Clara walked to the corner of the room, where the other maids were standing. They watched and waited for any orders from their mistresses. Duchess, it is so good to see you again, one of the ladies greeted Magnolia. She remembered meeting her and her husband at the ball. Countess Finels, the pleasure is mine. Magnolia smiled at her. I do not think you have met Viscountess Rohars and Lady Jepley, Countess Finels said. I am very pleased to meet you. Both ladies curtsied and greeted the Duchess. But unlike the Countess' sweet smile, Magnolia could tell that these two were not fond of meeting her. Her Royal Highness, Princess Aurora, the guard announced for everyone in the room to bow to her. Please rise, ladies. The princess smiled. Magnolia van Conigal, Duchess of Silisra, at your service, Your Highness. Magnolia curtsied to the princess, as instructed by Henry. I was disappointed that I did not get to meet you at the ball. You left so early. But I am glad you have accepted my invitation. Everyone knew that no one would dare refuse the princess' invitation. Aurora's words were her way of reminding everyone of their place. It is an honor to receive an invitation from Your Highness. The princess stared at Magnolia for a moment before looking away in the other lady's direction. I was thinking of having tea here, but the gods have blessed us with glorious weather today. I told them to move it to the garden. Aurora turned to one of the maids. Lead the way, Frances. The maid guided them to the garden, where a table was lavishly filled with different types of sweets and snacks. They all took a seat under the shade of a large oak tree. The flowers are all beautiful, Your Highness, observed the Countess. This garden was a gift from His Majesty for my 16th birthday, the princess confessed. I love coming here. The maids poured tea in each of the gold-decorated cups, and a gentle peach smell filled the air. Oh, this is delicious, a Lady Jepley commented. Frances, Another guest will join us shortly, so be sure to guide her here. Yes, Your Highness. Aurora took a sip of her tea while eyeing Magnolia. So, Duchess, I am certain you have been the talk of every drawing room since the ball. I'm curious about how you and the Duke have met, and how come we did not hear about the marriage until after it happened. All eyes turned to Magnolia. She is straight to the point. Magnolia smiled. You are flattering me, Your Highness. She remembered everything Henry had been teaching her. I think some things in life are just destined to happen. The gods guided our paths, and I was lucky enough to meet Daniel along the way. A few eyes widened when Magnolia used the Duke's first name. She knew it was inappropriate, but for some reason she felt that she needed to establish that he is her husband and hers alone. Oh, your dancing at the ball was just mesmerizing, a Lady Finelle said. Even my mother-in-law, who is a very strict dance instructor, praised you both. Darts were directed at the Countess for her comment. However, she was too naive to notice the hostility radiating from the other three women. Magnolia made note to invite the Countess to tea before she went back to Solicitor. I heard that you have a son. Viscountess Rojas' smile was condescending. That is true, and Magnolia answered calmly as she sipped her tea. I have been married before the Duke. He passed away 2 years ago. It must have been hard. Countess Finelles took Magnolia's hand in hers. It was, but I am fortunate that I met the Duke. Him and Geoffrey have become really close to each other. Is that not a burden on His Grace? The Viscountess sneered. Now, Cassandra, I am sure the Duke knows what he is doing. Aurora said. Then, with a broad smile full of wickedness, the princess looked at Magnolia. I hope you like surprises, Duchess. An uneasy feeling took hold of Magnolia. It depends on the surprise, Your Highness. The princess stood and everyone else followed. I'm sure you will like this one. Aurora looked past Magnolia. Lady Lazen, welcome. Lazen? Magnolia was too afraid to even look back. Just hearing that name made her skin crawl. The Duchess had to grip the edge of the table as the waves of emotions crashed against her. She swallowed hard, trying to be rational about the situation. There was no way that the Princess of the Kingdom invited the one person Magnolia loathed the most to her afternoon tea. But as Serena joined the princess and greeted her, Magnolia's optimistic thoughts vanished. How is this possible? It takes a week to travel from Carricker to the capital. Unless she was already here. Or maybe the princess had invited Serena before she even invited me. Duchess, the princess called Magnolia as she was the only one still standing, lost in her thoughts. All eyes were on her. She looked around and sat instantly. Her head was in chaos. Her eyes travelled to Aurora, and she realised that this whole tea charade was for the princess to torment her by inviting this evil person. Her stomach turned at the thought. Princess Aurora looked evil herself at that moment. Her wicked smile was quite sickening and scary. How could she loathe me so much even though this is the first time we meet? Then, Magnolia met Serena's eyes and a chill ran through her body. The woman welcomed her with a fake smile. How have you been, dear? I have not seen you since, she pretended she was thinking for a moment. Since you married the Baron. You mean since you sold me to the Baron? I understand you raised the Duchess. The princess could not hide her delight. Yes, Your Highness. She is the daughter I never had. Magnolia felt disgusted at the mention of the word daughter. She would have probably considered ending her life, had she had a drop of Serena's blood in her. There was an accident when she was a child, and unfortunately no one from her family survived except little Magnolia. Poor thing, she was so traumatized, she doesn't even remember anything from that day. Oh my, how sad. The Countess looked at Magnolia with tears in her eyes. This woman is too sensitive for her own good. That is horrible. You are a saint for taking care of a child who is not even yours, Lady Lazen, a lady gently commented. Well, it was a blessing to have her around. Serena wore a gentle look, but Magnolia saw right through it. This person could not even begin to understand the meaning of being gentle. She was a monster, an evil and heartless monster. Did you know her family, Lady Lazen? The princess asked. She was not trying to hide her curiosity at all. She was curious about my family. Magnolia was a bit surprised. She could never imagine that the princess would be so interested in someone like her. She must really love Daniel. The thought disappeared completely after Serena started to speak again. Not really, only what my late husband told me, as she answered. He was the 6th cousin of the Duchess mother. But that did not matter when the accident happened. I just could not bear the thought of a small child ending up in an orphanage because of an unfortunate tragedy. An orphanage would have been heaven compared to your house. As Serena went on, lying about how she took care of Magnolia, all the latter could think of was the pain this woman had inflicted on her during the years she had spent in her house. Her face felt hot. Her whole body felt hot, and her nails dug in her palms unconsciously. If you misbehave in front of the Baron, I will kill you. Serena's voice echoed in her head. Memories of the bruises, broken bones, blood, and hunger flooded her head. Her breathing was uneven, and her temperature kept rising. Magnolia ran her hand over her throat as she remembered Serena strangling her once, because she had dared greet one of her guests. It was hard to breathe, her chest was getting tighter and tighter, and her heart was beating frantically. Duchess, are you all right? Concern was all over the Countess' face. Actually, Magnolia stood at once. I apologize, Your Highness, but I am feeling ill. May I excuse myself for today? Aurora studied her for a bit. You do look unwell, Duchess. Call for her maid, she ordered. Thank you, Your Highness. I will take my leave then. Magnolia plastered a smile on her face, but it was more of a grimace. Have a wonderful afternoon, Your Highness. Ladies. She staggered toward Clara. The maid rushed to her side and helped her walk. Your Grace, are you all right? Clara's face was anxious. You look pale, and you're sweating quite a bit. Just help me get away from this place, she whispered. Magnolia's vision was so blurred, she was relying solely on Clara to guide her. As they slowly took a turn at one of the hallways, Clara saw the Duke walking with some men. The maid hesitated for a moment, then she called, Your Grace. Her voice was full of panic. She knew that she could be punished for yelling inside the royal palace, but she had no idea what else to do. The Duke turned to the source of the voice and laid eyes on Magnolia. He instantly ran to her and took her hands in his. She was burning. What happened? There was urgency and worry in his voice. Daniel? Magnolia's hand touched his face. It is you, right? Daniel's eyes widened. Can she not see me? He turned to Clara. What the hell happened to her? The maid trembled. The Duke was quite scary. I have no idea, Your Grace, as she stuttered. Everyone was having tea and chatting, and all of a sudden, the Duchess did not feel well. Daniel, a Magnolia called with a weak voice. Yes, I'm right here. He pulled her to him. Please, take me away from here, as she pleaded. Please. Victor, fetch the doctor and bring him to the house, Daniel barked as he picked up his wife. We are going first. He rushed to the carriage with Clara closely behind. What in the world happened? Countless thoughts scrambled in his head. Most of them involved the princess hurting Magnolia in some way. Jeremy, get to the house as fast as these horses can go. Yes, Your Grace. The pale coachman rushed to his seat and got ready to race for his life. Once inside the carriage, Daniel held his wife on his lap, stroking her face gently. She was burning. Magnolia, can you hear me? Her eyes flew open. You have to protect Jeffrey from that evil bitch, she uttered. Promise me. Daniel was confused. Who? The princess? No, Magnolia groaned from pain. Lazen. She clenched her fingers around his arm. She almost killed me many times. Do you understand? She twisted in his arms in agony. Do not let her anywhere near my son. Daniel's heart broke at the sight of the woman who, only a few weeks ago, went against 2 of his recruits with a dull knife as her only weapon. I promise I will. Magnolia closed her eyes again. As soon as the carriage pulled in front of the house, Daniel carried her in and rushed her to the bedroom. Thankfully, the doctor arrived at the same time. What happened? The doctor asked. The maid said that she was sitting with other ladies having tea, and she suddenly felt ill. Could it be that someone put something in the tea? I will check right away, Your Grace. After he used magic to check Magnolia's body, the doctor frowned. What is it? The Duke took a step closer. This is very strange. I cannot detect anything, Your Grace. How is that possible? She is burning. Daniel's roar sent shivers down the doctor's body. I know, Your Grace. Let me try again. He scanned her body again, but nothing. He swallowed hard. It appears that I cannot even lower her fever. Do you have a death wish, Doctor? Daniel's voice came low and menacing. Your Grace, I am at a loss. I have never seen anything like this. My magic is not working on her. Please spare my life, Your Grace. He fell on his knees, begging. Daniel took a deep breath. In his anger, he thought of killing him. If he is this incompetent, there is no reason to keep him around. Then, he looked at Magnolia. He was still a doctor. He could still be helpful. Maybe until the royal doctor gets here. Is there another way to lower her fever, without using magic? A lukewarm bath, yes. The doctor smiled as he remembered. I have seen it before, Your Grace. People who cannot afford doctors do that. Daniel glared at him. Victor. The commander rushed in right away. Yes, Your Grace. Escort the doctor to the sitting room. I am not done with him. And fetch the royal doctor. Tell her it is an emergency. Yes, my lord. He dragged the doctor out. Clara, Daniel turned to the maid. I need you to prepare a bath. Use lukewarm water. Not hot but not too cold either. Right away, Your Grace. He sat on the bed near Magnolia and caressed her hair. Please hang in there. He kissed her forehead. After Clara prepared the bath, she walked to the bed so she could help the Duchess to the tub. I will do it. You can leave. The maid was puzzled for a second, but she obeyed. Daniel slowly took off Magnolia's dress and carried her to lay her in the water. She groaned at the contact. Then, he took a towel and dipped it in cold water. He placed it on her forehead. He knelt by the tub, refreshing the towel and checking Magnolia's temperature every few minutes. After what seemed like an eternity, her fever seemed to have gone down a bit. Daniel smiled and put his forehead on hers. He sighed in relief. About half an hour later, Clara was back. "Your Grace, the royal doctor is here." He rushed to the door. "Aunt Porler," he called. "Please, come in." He pulled her into the room. "What happened?" "Your knight said it was an emergency." "It is an emergency, my wife. She is ill, and the other incompetent doctor could not do anything." "Where is she?" Porler asked. He could not bring her fever down with magic, so he said to put her in a lukewarm bath. "All right. Did the fever go down?" "Yes, a bit, but not completely." "May I see her?" Daniel froze. "Let me take her out of the tub." He disappeared into the bathroom for a moment. Then, he came out carrying Magnolia carefully, enveloped in a robe. He gently laid her on the bed. Porler smiled to herself as she observed her nephew treat his wife like a fragile piece of irreplaceable treasure. She took a few steps to the bed and started scanning the Duchess' body. Like the other doctor, she found nothing wrong with her body. "Does she have any magical powers?" Porler tried to figure out what the issue was. "No, she has no noble blood." My magic is not going through." "How is that even possible?" Daniel was getting more agitated. He felt so helpless. "Calm down, Daniel. Magic is not the only way to heal people." Porler touched Magnolia's forehead to check her fever. "Keep using a cold towel on her forehead. I'm going to send someone to fetch some herbs for me. They will help," she reassured him. "You have to fight this, dear." He squeezed his wife's hand. "You have to." Porler did not take long. As soon as she received the ingredients, she concocted the little medicine and rushed back to her nephew and his wife. She entered, holding a bowl of a purple paste. Porler checked Magnolia's head first. She was relieved that the fever had gone down even more. "Help me sit her up, Daniel." He did as asked. Porler took a spoonful of the herbal paste and fed it to Magnolia. She did not respond at first, but as the taste sank in, she grimaced. "What is this?" Magnolia mumbled with her eyes still closed. "It is disgusting." Daniel chuckled. "You have to eat it, dear. It will make you feel better," he said as he stroked her back. Magnolia complied, then they lowered her back on the pillow. "The worst has passed. Make sure you still refresh that cold towel until the fever is completely gone," Porler instructed. "I will come back in the morning to check on her." "Thank you so much for your help." Porler smiled at him. "Try to sleep too. We do not want you to frighten her when she wakes up." "I will try." He gave her a weak smile. When the door closed, he looked up. "At least you answered my prayers this time." Magnolia's hands shook as she carried the heavy plate to the living room. Serena had been enjoying using her as a maid lately. She hurried back to the kitchen to bring the tea tray. It was even heavier than the plate. She took slow steps while being very careful. Unfortunately, as soon as she entered the living room, her small wrists gave in, and the tray fell to the floor. Every single cup and saucer were shattered. "Hurry up and clean that mess," Serena ordered. Magnolia was too scared to even look up. She picked up all the broken pieces and rushed to the kitchen to fetch new ones. As she reached for the cups in the cupboard, a hand snatched her head and smashed it against the wall. "How dare you embarrass me in front of my guests?" Disoriented, Magnolia tried to stand, maybe run, but she fell back down. "What? Going somewhere?" Serena grabbed her from the hair and slapped her. Magnolia's cheek stung, but she did not make a sound. Maybe she should have. It always aggravated Serena even more when she did not show her pain. It was too late though. Serena was already livid. "I think we need to teach you a good lesson today, Miss Magnolia." She grinned. "A lesson that you will never forget." Serena grabbed a pot that was lying on the table. Magnolia stared at her in a state of disbelief. "Is she really going to hit me with it?" The child wondered. Sure enough, the first blow came. Magnolia curled up her body and used her arms to protect her head. But that did not make the pain any less. The hits kept coming. She had her eyes shut, but every time Serena hit her, blue lights spread through the darkness. She begged in silence for someone to help her, someone to save her from that cruel woman. She prayed to the gods. But it was just Serena and her, lying on the cold cobbled floor of that kitchen. "Now get lost, I do not want to see your face," as Serena finally said, out of breath. Magnolia opened her eyes to a sunny room. She sighed. Another damn dream. She looked over to her left and found Daniel sleeping soundly. She noticed the towel on her forehead and the bowl of water on the table. Then, she remembered tea with the princess and her encounter with Serena Lazen. She used her arm to cover her face. "I had hoped to never see that bitch again. Damn it." "Well, good morning to you too." Magnolia jumped in surprise. She turned to Daniel, who was smiling. "Did I wake you?" She grimaced. "Not at all. I was only half asleep anyway." He caressed her face absent-mindedly. "You gave me a fright yesterday." He squeezed his eyes shut. "How are you feeling right now?" "I'm all right," she answered with a low voice. "Did he stay by my side all night?" Magnolia studied Daniel for a moment. He looked exhausted. His unusual disheveled state and the damp towel she found on her head hinted the answer she sought. "What happened yesterday? Did Aurora do something to you?" Magnolia noticed that he used the princess' first name. "No, she did not." She was silent for a moment. Well, maybe she did, if she had planned to have Serena there from the very start. "Well? Are you going to tell me what happened?" Daniel sounded impatient. "Can I do it later?" Daniel narrowed his eyes. "I promise I will tell you everything you want to know today." "Fine." He got out of bed and rang for the maid. "I will tell them to bring you a breakfast tray in bed. You need to rest." He stared at her for a moment. He wished she could just trust him, feel comfortable enough to tell him about anything. But it seemed they still had some way to go for that to happen. "The doctor will come to check on you shortly," he informed her before he left. Damn it, did I upset him? A knock came a short moment later. "Come in." An older woman appeared at the door with a sweet smile on her face. For some reason, her smile looked familiar. "Good morning, Your Grace. I am Polar Calf, the royal doctor." The introduction surprised Magnolia. "The royal doctor?" "Yes, the Duke called for me yesterday." "Oh my, I am sorry," and Magnolia apologized. "You are probably busy, and we took you away from your work." "Not at all. The members of the royal family are quite healthy." The woman joked with a smile. I'm glad to see that you are doing better. May I check how your fever is today? Yes, of course. Porler used magic to make sure everything was all right with Magnolia. Do you feel pain anywhere? No, no pain. Well, everything looks good. It is still a mystery as to why you fell ill. Porler stared at Magnolia in anticipation. Was that a question? I think I was in a very stressful situation yesterday. I believe that was the cause, she answered after considering her words carefully. I see. Well, I will take my leave now. Make sure you rest, Your Grace. Thank you so much, Doctor. I will. After that, Magnolia ate breakfast in bed. She took a bath and spent her day resting in her room. She dreaded her meeting with Daniel all day. What if he decides that I am not fit to hold the Van Conigal name after I tell him about my past? Her very core shook at the thought. There is only one way to find out, she told herself. Magnolia looked in the mirror to check that she looked decent. She was still pale and her eyes looked tired and worried, but they were determined. There was no reason to delay it anymore. She took a deep breath, then headed to the Duchess' office. Here goes nothing. Magnolia took confident steps to the Duchess' office. She stopped in front of the door, took a deep breath, then knocked. Come in, Daniel called from the other side. She entered and found him engulfed in a pile of documents. I can come back later. You look busy. No, you are fine. I need a break anyway. He leaned back in his chair. Have a seat. Magnolia complied, but she did not utter a word. Daniel gave her a moment, but he became impatient. So, are you here to stare at my office rug? Magnolia blushed and Daniel regretted his comment right away. Yesterday, she took a deep breath. The princess invited a woman from my past. She paused. The woman who took me in after I lost my family. Her name is Serena Lazen. Daniel remembered how she begged him to protect Jeffrey from that woman. She was so desperate. She was silent for a while again. This time, Daniel gave her all the time she needed. I was 10 when the accident happened. Serena said that everyone died. I do not remember anything about that, or my family for that matter. She must have been as lonely as I was when my parents died. But at least I remember them and the good memories we have had together. Daniel's heart tightened. Serena was the widow of one of my mother's distant cousins. She was the closest thing to kin. The only one who was willing to take me in. Daniel knew all this information already. This was all in the report he had received before their marriage. Everyone saw her as a selfless person, taking care of a child who was not even blood related to her. But I found out later that she only did it because of some money my family left. Also, a knot formed in Magnolia's throat. She swallowed hard. Damn it. Get a hold of yourself, Magnolia. What everyone did not know is that she was the opposite of a saint. She treated me cruelly, worse than an animal. She starved me, beat me, burned me, made me her servant, almost killed me a few times, and when she spent all my family's money, she sold me to the Baron. Daniel's nails dug in his chair as he listened to his wife. He felt a rage burning in his chest. He wanted to rip this Serena apart in the most agonizing of ways. With all the memories of torture fresh in her head, Magnolia felt that her tears might betray her, so she pushed from the chair and walked to the window. The beautiful sunset calmed her a bit. The scars are from her, she added. Some are from the Baron, but most of them are from Serena Lazen. She put her palm on the cool glass. I never thought I would see her again. When I saw her yesterday, all the pain came back at once and I could not handle it. I was only a child. She was quiet for a moment, lost in her thoughts. Sometimes when I think about everything she did to me, I wonder how I survived. Sometimes I think, if something were to happen to me, and somehow Jeffrey ends up with her, her voice cracked. I would never let that happen. Daniel wrapped his arms around her. He is my son now, and I will never let any harm come to him or to you, Magnolia. He turned her to him and gently tilted her head back so that he met her gaze. He wiped her tears with his thumb. You are my family now, and I will protect you with my life. Do you trust me? Magnolia was lost in Daniel's eyes. The sunset's reflection in his blue pools made them magical, enchanted. She could only manage to nod. Daniel pulled her to his warm chest. She had never felt safer in her life. She put her arms around his waist and embraced the first man whose touch made her comfortable instead of terrified. My lord, I brought ye. Henry froze at the scene. The Duke took a step away from Magnolia while she turned to face the window. I am so sorry. I can come back late. It is all right, Henry. I have to check on Jeffrey. Magnolia rushed out of the office without meeting the assistant's eyes. The room was awkwardly silent. Daniel knew exactly what Henry was going to say. After all those years of him repeating that he never wanted to love anyone, that he never wanted to have any feelings for a woman, and that he never wanted to have children. Every time they had that conversation, Henry told him that one day he would meet a woman who would make him fall for her. He sighed. I guess the premonitions of my childhood friend are becoming true. He was not sure if it was love, but he did feel something for Magnolia. I do apologize for barging in on you. I did not think your wife would be here, Henry said as he placed some documents on the desk. Here we go. He never called her your wife before. Henry, I need you to find everything there is to know about Serena Lazen. Also, how the princess knows her enough to invite her to tea. Daniel fell to his chair. Of course. What about Magnolia's real family? Any progress on that? I am afraid we could not find anything in the Carricker archives about the de Solange family. Unfortunately, the capital archives only have noble families registries. Daniel looked up at him as if a piece of puzzle just fell into place. Check the capital archives too. Do you think? Let us just make sure. Daniel was hopeful. All right, I will take care of that personally. Thank you, Henry. All right, I will come back later to take those documents. Henry paused at the door. And Daniel, it is all right to fall for her, since the feeling is mutual, he said before he disappeared. The feeling is mutual? How does he even know that? Memar, your face is so red. Are you not feeling well? Magnolia touched her face. Her heart had not been able to calm down since that hug in Daniel's office. I am fine, darling. Now go to sleep. She kissed him on the forehead. Sweet dreams, my boy. As Magnolia walked to her room, she put her hand on her chest. It was still beating faster than normal. She had never felt that way before. Daniel was so sweet, and she felt so good in his arms. Then she halted. But he is obviously close to the princess. She shook her head. What am I even thinking? Clara said that it was the princess who was pursuing him. She frowned. It looks like I am becoming greedier by the day. This is only a contractual marriage, Magnolia. This head of mine needs to focus on my duties as the Duchess and not some unrealistic romantic story. Magnolia dragged her feet to her room while sulking. She walked in and crashed on the bed face down. She groaned against the covers. "Are you all right?" The Duchess' question made her jump in shock. She looked up and found a wet Daniel walking out of the bathroom. He was wearing a loosely fastened robe that revealed half of his torso. She gulped. She wanted to run her hand down that wet torso. She bit her lip. Maybe even kiss it. "Magnolia?" Daniel called. She gasped. His voice brought her back from her wild imagination. She immediately jumped out of bed. "Oh gods, what is wrong with me? What are you doing here? Have you forgotten that this is my room too?" Daniel took a few steps closer to Magnolia. "Then, I can move to a different room." "Why?" He was towering over her now. "Are you afraid you want to be able to keep your hands to yourself?" "What?" Magnolia's face burned scarlet. "Of course not." "It is settled then. I'm sleeping here tonight." Magnolia looked at him dumbfounded. "What?" Magnolia lay in bed, stiff. She could not sleep, and her eyes were fixated on the canopy above the bed. She could hear Daniel's deep breaths. He had fallen asleep right away. How can he just fall asleep like that? Does he even see me as a woman? She rolled her eyes. She turned to her side and faced Daniel. He looked so peaceful. It was the first time she got the chance to study his face this close without the risk of being found out. His eyelashes were longer from this angle, and his parted thin lips were so cute. His silver locks were falling on his face. Magnolia gently pushed his hair back, but Daniel violently grabbed her hand. She yelped in surprise. Daniel opened his eyes. They were cold, dangerous, and they were staring straight at her. A shiver ran through her body. "You are hurting me." Daniel immediately released her hand. "I am so sorry. It is out of habit," he said. "Are you all right?" "Habit." He was silent for a moment. "You cannot let your guard down in battle," Daniel said. But more importantly, in a swift move, he was on top of Magnolia. "I knew you would not be able to keep your hands to yourself." She blushed. "What are you saying? Get off me." But she did not push him away. "Is that what you really want?" Daniel's voice was low and so close. His breath brushed against Magnolia's cheek. She felt her face burning. She wanted to kiss him, but she knew that for him it would only be physical. Primitive. Like the Baron. The Baron. Daniel caressed her face and kissed her jaw gently. "No," she whispered, trembling under him. "Please don't." He froze at her plea. He looked at her and found a terrified look on her face and tears running down. I am sorry." He pushed to the side. "I did not mean to." Magnolia turned away from him and hugged herself tightly. Daniel opened his mouth to speak, but he did not know what to say. Damn it. Why the hell did I have to tease her so much? The next morning, the sun made its way through the curtains. Magnolia opened her eyes to an empty room. Then she remembered the events from last night. Her heart clenched. "Good morning, Your Grace," Clara greeted her. "Good morning, Clara." Magnolia did not feel like getting out of bed today. "The Duke asked me to inform you that you are invited to dinner at the Marquis of Carosser's house this evening." "This evening?" Magnolia groaned. "Yes, Your Grace." She dragged herself out of bed and put on a robe. "Then please bring out the lavender dress and ready it for the evening." "Yes, My lady. Could you prepare a bath for me? Please, ere a loud knock interrupted her. Then a pale maid appeared at the door. Your Grace, there has been an accident at the training grounds. Magnolia trembled. The Duke? She asked with panic. It is the young master. Geoff, she almost lost her footing, but thankfully the bedpost was within reach. She leaned on it. What happened? I am not sure, Your Grace. But the Duke asked me to fetch you. He brought the young master to his bedroom. Magnolia's feet moved before her brain registered the action. Your Grace, you are not wearing a Clara's words fell on deaf ears. Magnolia could not hear her. She could not hear anything but her heartbeat. Please, please gods, let him be fine. She reached Geoffrey's room in no time and pushed the door open. She found him sitting on the edge of his bed, crying. Daniel was sitting next to him. He was trying to console him. What happened? She screamed, running and kneeling in front of her son. She examined his small body with her hands, frantically looking for any wounds. He is not hurt, Daniel told her. Then, what happened? She looked at him with questioning eyes. Then she turned to Geoffrey and wiped his flowing tears. Why are you crying, darling? I did not mean to. Geoffrey sobbed. It just happened. Magnolia's heart hurt at the sight of her son's pain. She took him in her arms and patted his back. It's all right, it's all right. He cried himself to sleep. After she laid him in bed and covered him. Magnolia kissed his forehead and caressed his hair a few times. Then, she looked over to Daniel, who had been looking out the window for the past half hour. Can you tell me what happened now? She asked as she walked toward him. He did not move. For a moment, she thought he did not hear her. Then he turned to her with icy blue eyes. Geoffrey has magical powers. His words came as cold as icicles. How is that possible? Her eyes were wide. During training, his magic arose and one of the knights got hurt. What? Magnolia covered her mouth in surprise. Are you really that shocked? I cannot believe it. How is the knight doing? Daniel's cold eyes stared at her for a moment. He will be fine. Magnolia looked in the direction of her son. The Baron did not have any powers. He even hated his mother for running away with a noble because she was infatuated with magic. Obviously, I don't have any powers either. So how is it possible that Geoffrey does? Could it be that the Baron's father was not his real father? I had Henry look into the noble's archives. Daniel's voice drew Magnolia's attention again. There is no mention of the Solange. Daniel paused. And your late husband was not of noble blood. Magnolia looked at him, confused. She knew all the information he just mentioned and wondered why he was telling her. Are you really that shocked? His earlier question rang in her ears. Magnolia felt a sharp pain in her chest. So that is what he is thinking. Does he really think that I am an unfaithful wife? As Geoffrey's adoptive father, I just need to know the truth. If there is another man, a noble, who would later appear to claim. The slap echoed through the room. Then, Magnolia's hands grabbed Daniel's jacket and pulled him closer. Their eyes were only inches away, his were cold and confused and hers were hurt and enraged. The truth, Your Grace, I was only forced to one man's bed, my late husband, Baron Luke Croy. Sorry to disappoint you. Her words were venomous. She pushed him and turned away, but not before he glimpsed a tear running down her cheek. He did not know what to say. The situation was complicated and delicate. Magic was inherited through parents. At least one parent must have noble blood in order for the child to do as well. Daniel did not know how else to explain Jeffrey's powers. "Now, can you leave? I want to stay alone with my son." After she heard the door close, Magnolia leaned on the window glass and allowed her tears to run wild. His words hurt more than any physical pain ever did. Magnolia walked to Jeffrey's bed and lay next to him. "I will protect you no matter what," she whispered against his forehead and hugged him tightly. Magnolia felt the bed shift and opened her eyes. "Good morning, Mamar," Jeffrey greeted her. "Sorry, did I wake you? Was I sleeping?" Magnolia blinked at him a few times. "Yes, but that is all right. I was taking a nap too." He smiled. "I know it is not morning. I was just being silly." Magnolia caressed Jeffrey's face. "You know, what happened earlier was not your fault." Jeffrey looked down. "The night will be fine. He was not hurt badly." "Really?" A smile appeared on his face again. "Yes, your pupper told me." She paused. "You know what else he told me?" Jeffrey looked at her in anticipation. She quickly pulled him and started tickling him. "That you need to laugh a bit more." Jeffrey giggled as he tried to break free, but he could not. They played for a while as Magnolia chased him around the room and tickled him every time she caught him. But they were interrupted by a knock. "I apologize, Your Grace. But if we do not start soon, you will not be ready for dinner on time," Clara said as Lady Green walked closely behind her. Magnolia considered not attending, using feeling ill as an excuse, but her pride prevented her from doing so. She was not going to let this situation affect her duties as the Duchess, and she was going to prove to everyone that she was fit for the role. "Do you think you laughed enough?" Magnolia asked, turning to Jeffrey. He nodded his head, giggling a little more. She ruffled his hair. "Are you going to be a good boy and listen to Lady Green?" "Of course, Mamar." "All right, I will be off now." She gave him one more kiss. As she walked past Clara, her maid put a long shawl on her shoulders. Magnolia realized that she was still only wearing her nightgown and robe. She tightened the shawl around herself. "Thank you, Clara." As usual, the preparations took a long time. Clara tried her best to cover up Magnolia's eyes. They were still red and puffy from crying earlier. She curled her hair and helped her put on her lavender dress. She adorned her neck and ears with morganite jewelry to complement the dress. Clara also chose it because it was a wedding gift from the Marquis and Marquise of Corosser. She had to organize hundreds of gifts and label them as the butler instructed. She was glad she was the one to do it, though. It made her job easier for days like this. Magnolia looked in the mirror. She looked a little different with her curls done this way. She liked it. "You are a miracle maker, Clara." Magnolia smiled. "Thank you." "Your beauty makes my job easy, my lady," Clara answered as she bowed. Magnolia ascended the stairs, still blushing a bit from her maid's comment. Then her eyes fell on Daniel. He was wearing a royal blue dinner jacket, and his hair was combed back. When he noticed her, he walked to the staircase and waited for her. The color of the jacket was reflecting on his eyes. It made their color even more intense. Magnolia's heart skipped a beat. "What am I thinking? Have these past few weeks made you so weak?" When the Duke offered his arm, she ignored it and walked right past him. Daniel was too shocked to move, and all the servants and guards pretended they did not see anything. The ride to the Carrosser house was short but very awkward. When they arrived, there was a long line of carriages before them, and they had to wait for their turn. Magnolia was a bit surprised. When she heard dinner, she thought it was going to be a small gathering with close friends. But this almost looked as big as the King's ball the other night. They finally made it to the entrance. Daniel exited the carriage and offered his arm. "Are you going to refuse my arm again and embarrass me?" She slipped her arm through his. "Of course not, Your Grace. I know how much you care about appearances," as she whispered with a smile on her face. Daniel pressed his lips together. He had planned to apologize and talk about what happened earlier and last night. But he did not know how to start the conversation with her in the carriage, and now it was too late. It is probably going to be awkward the whole night. They walked in and they were immediately greeted by the Marquis and Marquise. "Daniel," the Marquis called as they shook hands. "How come you have not been visiting even though you were in the capital?" "I apologize, my lord. It has been a bit busy." The Marquise held his face in her hands. "Are you too old to visit us now that you are married?" she joked as her eyes smiled in the Duchess' direction. Magnolia was shocked at how close they seemed. The scene made her heart fuzzy. "Please let me introduce my wife, Magnolia van Conigal, Duchess of Silicera." Magnolia curtsied. "Please call me Magnolia," she said. The Marquise took her by the arms and kissed her on the cheek, the way close family members greeted each other. It made Magnolia freeze. "Oh dear, you are so sweet. Oh Daniel, I love her already. Great choice, my boy." She beamed at Magnolia, who was blushing uncontrollably. "I agree with my wife," the Marquis added while patting Daniel on the shoulder. "Now please, do go in. I hope you enjoy the evening. We still have to greet arriving guests, but I will see you later. I cannot wait to spend more time with you, dear." The Marquise squeezed her hands. Magnolia curtsied again and took Daniel's arm. "I hope they did not make you uncomfortable. They are very kind people," Daniel whispered near Magnolia's ear. "Not at all," as she answered. "They do seem very genuine." As they made it inside, Magnolia could finally see the size of this dinner party. There were probably about 40 people in the room already. "You made it." A familiar face approached them. "Good evening, Henry." Magnolia greeted him. "Your Grace." Henry smiled at Daniel. "You look like you were just scolded by Mother," he grinned. "Mother?" Magnolia repeated. "Is the Marquise your mother? You have not told her?" Henry frowned at Daniel. "I just did not get the chance to. I am the second son. I do not like titles though." He gave her a big grin. "Have you seen my brother yet?" he asked the Duke. "He cannot get his hands off his new bride." He joked and Daniel cleared his throat. Henry looked at Magnolia, who seemed a bit uncomfortable. "Oh, my apologies. That was very inappropriate." Magnolia laughed. "I have never seen you this energetic, Henry. It is very refreshing." Henry smiled. "Thank you, my lady." Her Royal Highness, Princess Aurora. The butler announced. A few murmurs were heard around the room. Obviously, the princess' arrival was a surprise to everyone. Everyone bowed as she made her way to the center of the room. "Well, this dinner has gotten a little more complicated." Magnolia heard Henry whisper to Daniel. Mother is going to put even more pressure on the servants. Was she not invited? Daniel asked. Not that I know of. As the room went back to its original lively atmosphere, the princess walked toward them. All three bowed to her. She looked stunning. She was wearing an emerald dress that went perfectly with the color of her eyes. Her soft blonde hair cascaded over her bare shoulders, and her figure was flawlessly enveloped in the silk of her dress. Your Highness. Daniel kissed her hand, and then Henry did. Duchess, how are you feeling? Last time you left in such haste, and you looked unwell. Just remembering that afternoon made Magnolia's throat go dry. It is very kind of you to ask, Your Highness. Indeed, I did not feel well. Even the royal doctor had to come to treat me. But I am all right now. Thank you for your concern. She curtsied again. Oh, how is your aunt doing? Aurora asked Daniel. Even though she is the royal doctor, I never get to see her at the palace. She is doing well, thank you for asking, Your Highness. The royal doctor is Daniel's aunt? How come nobody introduced her to me? And she kept calling me Duchess. Magnolia blushed from a mix of embarrassment and anger. I believe it is time for us to make it to the dining hall, Henry announced. May I escort you, Your Highness? Actually, I prefer to have Daniel do that, the princess requested with satisfaction in her eyes. She knew that Daniel could not refuse the princess' request, especially in front of so many watching eyes. Of course, Your Highness. Daniel offered her his arm. He did not even glance back at Magnolia. May I, Your Grace? Henry held his arm out for her to take, and she did. Thank you, Henry. Magnolia tried her best to sound natural, even though her emotions were like a stormy sea. She just called him Daniel. Is she officially picking a fight with me? Magnolia entered the dining hall, escorted by Henry. The room almost seemed to have a never-ending table. The plates and glasses glimmered under the light. The extravagant chandeliers hung from an intricately carved ceiling. Large, beautiful paintings decorated the walls. It was the most beautiful dining hall Magnolia had ever seen. Not that she had seen many. Of course, Marquis Flock was sitting at the head of the table, and to his right the princess, who was the most important guest of the night. The second most important guest was Daniel, who was seated to the princess' right. Magnolia found herself facing her husband from the other side of the table. She was seated between the Marquise on her right and Henry to her left. Oh, I am so delighted to have you sit next to me, dear. The Marquise smiled sweetly at her. The pleasure is all mine, my lady. Magnolia returned the smile. Dinner seemed longer than normal, or maybe it was because Magnolia hated every minute Daniel was sitting next to the princess. From her seat, she could not hear most of their conversation, and it drove her crazy. It did seem that they were enjoying themselves. The princess laughed occasionally, which drew many eyes every time. People would look in Magnolia's direction right after, and probably spread more rumors than breakfast tables could handle the next morning. The whole situation was quite uncomfortable. The food was delicious, at least the little bit she was able to eat. When his mother was not asking her dozens of questions at a time, Henry kept her company by making pleasantries and telling her about the other guests. Even the Marquis engaged in conversation with her. In normal circumstances, this would have been the best dinner party for the Duchess. But all she wanted was for dinner to be over and to separate those two. When it was finally done, Henry escorted Magnolia back to the hall. She lost Daniel and the princess in the crowd. Her eyes vainly searched, but there were just too many people. Do you see Daniel, Henry? He looked around, but he could not find him either. How about you wait for me here? I will look for him and bring him, Your Grace. Thank you. Magnolia paused. Actually, I will wait out on the balcony. I could use some fresh air. That sounds good. Henry was swallowed by the crowd and Magnolia took a few steps to the balcony. The air was a bit chilly, but it felt good. She walked to the corner of the balcony to hide in the darkness. She just needed some alone time to process her feelings. She had never felt that kind of jealousy before. It was intense and dangerous. She took a refreshing deep breath. As expected, he does not have any feelings for me. It is just a contract. Was he lying when he talked about protecting me yesterday? Why would he, though? He did not have to say anything. And that kiss at the ball, it was probably for appearances. But what about the hug in his office? She groaned. Are you hiding here? Magnolia twisted around and was instantly disappointed when she saw Henry alone. I'm sorry, I could not find him. But I brought some chilled champagne. Thank you. Magnolia took one of the glasses he had in his hands and sipped the cold liquid. Are you all right? He asked. Honestly, I don't know. She laughed nervously. I just discovered that I know nothing about Daniel. He is a very reserved person. He has gone through a lot since he was young, so it will take him some time to open up to you. But trust me, he has already changed so much after he met you. Is that really? The Solange is not there, I'm telling you. A male voice came from the other side of the balcony. Magnolia froze. I looked through the archives myself. So are you saying her son is? The woman lowered her voice. A bastard? Henry turned abruptly, but Magnolia grabbed his arm. Please do not make a scene at your parents' dinner. He wanted to argue with her, but he could not. Balconies have become the official place of gossip about me. She smiled sheepishly. Plus, there is no point in arguing with them when even the Duke himself believes the same thing. She finished her drink in one unladylike gulp. What do you mean? I think even Daniel would have. Henry noticed Magnolia's body tensing up. Are you all right? I think it is a bit too chilly. Shall we go back in? When she did not react to him, he looked in the direction where her eyes were fixated. It was a room, 2 windows away from the balcony. Daniel and the princess were there alone, having an intense conversation, from what it looked like. He wanted to prevent Magnolia from seeing it, but he could not do anything. Her eyes were not even blinking. Suddenly, Daniel grabbed the princess' arm. What the hell is he doing? What if someone else sees this? Henry was fuming. He started looking around to make sure that nobody else was witnessing their exchange. When he looked back, the princess was in Daniel's arms with her face buried in his chest. They walked away from the window and, unconsciously, Magnolia leaned over to see more. Henry grabbed her arm just in time. My lady, that is dangerous, you might fall. Her reaction was slow. She looked at him with teary eyes, then she stepped away from the edge. Could you please tell the Duke that I am ready to leave? When he is done with his meeting. Your Grace, there must be a. Henry tried to save his friend's face. Please, Henry, there is no need to say anything. She looked defeated. I will convey your message to His Grace right away, my lady. That idiot. She is obviously in love with him. Is he blind?